You teased a cold open for us the other day, Rebecca. Would you like to start us off?
Yes. I would. It's a small but important life update from my household. Because a friend of the podcast, Mick, has chosen his Stardew Valley spouse. I think that we can all agree that this is like a huge moment in any nerdy couple's life.
Yes.
So yeah, and it's a funny story as well. It's a really good story. We were watching the new Starbomb video because I don't know if you've seen at the time of recording Starbomb.
I was going to message you about this.
Oh, I'm way ahead of you.
I can't stop listening to the Krobus song. It's so fucking funny.
So we were watching the video for the Krobus song, and you know the bit where it like runs through some of the characters from Stardew Valley at the start.
Yeah.
Mick was literally like, "Wait a minute. Who was that? Who was that last one?" And at first I thought he meant George and that he was doing a bit. But then I went back and actually who he meant was Elliot, who he is just like, it was love at first sight. So, you know.
Rogue choice.
And I was like, you know, what about long-haired pretty boy wannabe author Elliot who lives on the beach has really got your attention? And Mick was like, oh my God, I can change him. And I was like, yes, I love this. This is like some great energy. I mean, like considering that he's never played Stardew Valley yet, I assume it's going to happen now. And I still haven't committed to a spouse. But like he knew.
Yeah.
He knew immediately.
He locked eyes.
Yes. With Elliot.
With that man.
Which is, you know, it's fair. It's a good choice.
And it's an interesting choice. Because
it is an interesting choice.
I don't like Elliot at all. I think he's really pompous but he looks great. That hair and that side profile, I can totally understand why Nick was like...
But when I explained a bit of the Elliot backstory, he was like, oh my God, swoon. So
that's the thing, I could change him. That honestly is like 60% Stardew spouses.
It's so true.
I can change them.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, no, so it's, I mean, to be fair, it's taken someone out of the running for me because now I can't marry Elliot. So I'm down from...
Oh, really?
I'm down from 4 contenders to 3. So that's kind of made it a little easier for me in a way because Elliot was kind of like hovering around. Probably not going to get picked, but kind of hovering around the list for me. So
yeah.
We need an update on that because I don't think I've known anyone who's ever romanced Elliot. As far as I'm concerned, everyone's just like, oh, he's the guy who lives on the beach that I don't talk to. So I think we might need to get a dispatch from Mick if he does play it.
Yes.
We'll get him on the podcast for 10 minutes just to be like, come on, man, what's going on? What's happening
we need
here?
the diaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking that it'd be a nice one to play. We're always looking for more stuff we can play in like co-op. And I know Stardew Valley like has co-op options, so it'd be kind of cute.
True.
It does, yeah.
Kind of a cute thing to do. So we'll see. I do need to it's making me, you know, that point in your life where your own partner knows who they want to marry in Stardew Valley and you still don't, and it's just like you start to look at yourself and like the choices you're making with your time on Earth, and you're like, I need to.
Yeah. A little bit of introspection for the end of the year, I understand.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I'm tending towards Sam, but also Maru is great, and I do like Leah. So
okay, you need to. I mean, I can help you out with this situation. Drop Sam. Sam.
But
cut that
as your friends. Let's not go down that route. Hello and welcome back to Indieventure, a podcast all about the wonderful world of indie games. My name is Liam Richardson and I'm joined as always by my 2 wonderful co-hosts, Rebecca Jones.
Hiya.
And Rachel Watts.
Hello.
This episode is the first of our end-of-year duology. Whereas next week, we'll be digging into our favourite games of the year in more detail, this week we're taking the time to reflect on what 2024 was like for indie games and the wider indie game industry. 2024 has been yet another gargantuan year for indie games. Even for us, 3 people who run a podcast specifically about indie games, it's been difficult to play everything that has been released throughout the last 12 months. So in this episode, we're going to attempt to answer an elusive and woolly question. Was 2024 a good year for indie games? Shall we dive right into it?
Yes. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it. If I said no, it'd just be like the funniest. Actually, I do want to make a note of how much I love the word duology.
Yeah, me too.
I want that up front before we start the conversation.
Delicious.
I feel like I only know that word because of you. As I wrote it earlier, I was like, that feels like a Rebecca-ism.
It's not a Rebecca-ism. What it is that Ace Attorney has 2 duologies as part of its whole bigger run. And so I use the word a lot because I write about Ace Attorney a lot.
Can I just say, you responded with, it's not a Rebecca-ism, but then saying it's from Ace Attorney is still a Rebecca-ism.
Same diff. I mean, that's so true. It's like when Mick asked what I want for Christmas this year, literally all I could think of was, those little tiny little plushes that are like sushi rolls, and you can get them of all the Capcom characters.
Oh yeah. Like the Sum-Sums or whatever they're called. Yeah.
And I was like, I just want all the Ace Attorney Sum-Sums, so that if I was to like flop back on a mattress, they would all jump in the air simultaneously, and then like I would be cozy in my nest of Ace Attorney Sum-Sums, and like literally that's all I can think of.
I forgot about Sum-Sums. Yeah.
Were they official Sum-Sums? Were they like knockoff? I know Capcom did them, but were they
they're
Disney?
like official.
I thought they were a Disney thing. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they're a Disney thing, yeah.
I know you can definitely get them because I'm looking into it because I was like, oh, I love them. It seems like it would probably be easier to go to Japan and go to the official Capcom store in Tokyo and buy them than actually try and get them to the UK. So it's still a bit of a dream. But yeah, no, I think they're called Sum-Sums, or I don't know. You know what? My setup is so precarious that I daren't reach for another device to Google it right now because I'm taking us off topic, as I promised I would. And I promised we're going to get back on topic.
Reminds me of when you load up Sims and it goes, a Sum-Sum.
Excuse me, it's Sul. I'll have you know.
Yeah. Oh God, I wasn't going to do it. I was just going to let it.
I'm just saying, it reminded me of it. What is it? A Sul.
Sul. Yeah.
What does that mean?
I think it means hello.
It's hello and goodbye. It's like aloha.
Is it?
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, actually going to go all linguistics nerd over a made up language if we're not careful. Please, somebody talk about an indie game. I regret doing this bit.
Honestly, most of the time it's like we're falling down a flight of stairs when we go off topic. It's just like every step we hit is a completely different thing. I fucking love it. It's
such
so
a good
funny.
description of how my brain works every hour of every day.
Yeah, me too. Well, I was going to say, to wrap up this incredible tangent, is because Sum-Sum is an official Disney product and there were Ace Attorney crossovers, does that mean that there is a possibility that we get Ace Attorney and Kingdom Hearts?
Oh
Stop
my goodness.
That.
Wait a minute. Because Capcom, Marvel versus Capcom, and now Disney owns Marvel, so if Marvel versus Capcom, Disney Marvel.
Could you imagine? That'd be incredible. Goofy gets put on trial for murder and you, Donald, Sora and Phoenix, right, have to find him innocent of murder. Oh
my God. Have we just come completely full circle as a trio? Has this just happened?
Jesus Christ.
I think so.
Found the perfect intersection of all our interests. It's Capcom,
oh my God.
Marvel, Disney.
the kingdom key for like Ace Attorney world is just like, it's like the hilt is like, it's got to incorporate like the lawyer badge, and then
oh my goodness.
Goodness. On the top is a gavel. Yes, we've done it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, well done, everyone.
Bye, guys.
That's it. That was the real intention of this episode.
And the blue badger is like in there somehow. Maybe. Oh my God, this has to.
Is the blue badger a summon?
Oh. Yes.
Does Miles Edgeworth is Miles Edgeworth the companion who follows you around? I sort of feel like Sora and Phoenix have similar vibes.
Oh, they do.
Anyway, we must move on.
Okay, sorry. We do.
I'm just gonna say it. Generic anime boy. That's the vibe. Like controversial opinion. Very true. But there we go.
No, yeah.
Oh,
anyway, right, indie games.
Yeah, it's out of our systems. Rachel, like, DM me the rest of that thought, but yeah, it's time to go.
Never tell me the rest of that thought. I want to start this section with the question that I led into it with from 15 minutes ago before we start talking about Sum-Sums.
Sorry.
Rachel, I'd like you to weigh in at first because I feel like out of the three of us, you have had your finger on the pulse with indies more than Rebecca and I have. We discussed this last week. I would like to get your take on whether 2024 has been a good year for indie games.
It's interesting because when I was thinking about this question, I've come about it from two approaches. One, releases, fantastic as always. I think 2024 was not better than 2023. We saw some really good games in 2023. But in terms of industry-wise and what we're seeing with smaller studios, absolutely not. So there's this really weird dichotomy where we're seeing a bunch of like amazing indie games be released, but behind the scenes, if you're not paying attention, like more and more studios, people are losing their jobs. Like the industry is dissolving. And so it's this really weird kind of situation where it's like to be an indie game fan is to be like, I love indie games. And yeah, this year on the surface, there's been loads of indie games, but also at the same time, it's like the people who are making these games are actively like fighting for their careers, like, and for funding, like for job opportunities. It's really rough out there. So to be honest, looking at those two perspectives, it's hard to sum it up in like a yes or a no, right? It's like yes, but also no.
Yeah. Rebecca, how do you feel about it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a very fair assessment. I think the it's been weird, right? Because we know that a lot of the issues with like huge amounts of redundancies started in 2023, right? It was last year was a brutal year. This year has just been even worse, that it just feels like this whole continuum. And as the one who probably has the broadest split focus between AAA and indie, I think as well it's really shown to me that is just a whole industry issue. I think probably more, I would say maybe among Western studios than studios maybe based in Asia, who seem to be like faring a little bit better. So I think that's kind of like a consideration. But I mean, I think that, you know, they're just everyone's feeling the squeeze, right, of like basically global economic issues, obviously. In terms of like releases, as bringing my perspective here as the person who is still professionally most on top of the AAA market, probably, I think that the thing that interests me is that I do feel like, as you say, Rachel, this year and last year were both excellent for indie games. And I genuinely feel like 2024 has not been nearly as good for AAAs as 2023 was. I think that last year was like an amazing year across the board. And this year it has felt more like I've seen good AAAs and I've seen great indies, but it's just, and I've mentioned this before, but I think it might have been off mic when the three of us were just talking. It's like, this year hasn't had quite such a strong narrative to it.
Yeah.
In terms of the direction that the industry's taken, in terms of the kind of the art and the entertainment being produced, obviously like the narrative of the industry in terms of all those redundancies and all those studio closures and the various awful things that have been happening there, like that's unfortunately a very strong like narrative. But in terms of, you know, we had like last year, you had everything from Baldur's Gate 3 being the first game to basically EGOT in the industry, to all of these things like Dredge being like one of the few indies to sell over 1 million copies and just smashing it within like weeks of, 6 months of launch or something? It was like crazy quick.
Yeah. Wild, wasn't it?
And even though like this year, I would say, as Rachel's already said, I think that there have been the same number of indies that have really stood out. The thing that I actually thought about was earlier today, I went and reread some articles I've been reading over the course of the year about like Game of the Year predictions and like state of the industry. And I was really interested to see how they stacked up. And one thing that I noticed was that like last year you had things like Dredge and Pizza Tower and a couple of other titles that came up and people were like, these games are amazing. They've sold those. Everyone's kind of loving them. And the conversation that I was seeing around the indies this year was, it was like Animal Well, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, 1,000 Times Resist, kept coming up as like the best indie games you're not playing right now. And like that framing, I think kind of speaks to the way more, it feels kind of piecemeal, right? This year doesn't feel like it developed that identity in terms of what games were doing in the same way. And even though I probably think that, like, personally for me, those games, which I have not yet played nearly as much as I want to, I will admit straight away, it's been a full-on year, but those games kind of appeal to me more personally, probably. It still feels like indies kind of got to break through more last year because of just how excited people were for the 2023 release schedule generally, in a way that's not quite been replicated in 2024. And I think that's a pretty natural, like, rhythm of industry. You know, we have years where everything feels like it's getting this huge reception of being amazing, and years where things kind of don't take off in the same way, but it still felt really, really odd to me.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. So you're proposing that because last year was so full on, there's almost just like not enough energy this year.
I genuinely think
things.
That is a factor, because I've been saying all year, and that makes it a tired joke, obviously, but I have been saying it feels like we're in the hangover of 2023, like the whole year in terms of the industry and reception to new games is just like, I mean, like I say, it's kind of even the case for me. You know, I see a game like 1,000 Times Resist, which I know I'm going to love and I know I need to play, but it's just like I haven't managed to get into it yet because there's just been so much. There's still so much from last year. There's like there's almost this like there is that post-party exhaustion in a sense, really, around just the number of things competing for your attention. And it's like that's the epitome of a first world problem, right? There are too many amazing games to possibly keep on top of. Is a good problem to have, especially when you compare it to all of the other actual very real problems in the industry. But it still does have that feeling of like we all partied so hard last year that this year it's just been tough to kind of get up and get going again. So.
Can I give you my theory on why this year feels different? And I've been thinking about this a lot today, and I think I've come up with a theory that feels right to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think on the one hand, we're living through an economic downturn, and I just don't think people have as much disposable income as they've had in the last few years to spend on things like games. I think, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on with another question, but I do think indies are beginning to reach like AA levels of production values in some instances, and therefore are being priced to reflect that additional workload, which is maybe pricing some people out of the market for when they're new. And I also just feel like, because one of my biggest things that felt weird about this year is I just felt like I wasn't able to follow the conversation as much as I felt like I've been able to in previous years. Now, I think most of that is because I removed myself from TikTok and Twitter this year, but I do also think we live sort of this concept of having 2 or 3 spaces where you go for all of your online content has kind of fractured and collapsed this year for the first time in maybe like
really good point.
10 years. So like no one's using X anymore because it's owned by the world's most divorced man. People are kind of moving away from TikTok because we're starting to think about screen use and just general, like, where are we putting our attention to? Games media is being severely reduced through closures and people leaving the industry. And I just feel like it's really hard to try and find the place where that conversation's happening. Like if I think of when Tears of the Kingdom came out last year, which I know is a AAA, but I feel like everyone on Twitter was talking about it. I was seeing videos, I was seeing pictures, then I would go on games websites and everyone was talking about it. And I go on TikTok and everyone was putting videos about it. And I just haven't had that space for it this year. Now, I know I'm unique in that though, because I think a lot of people are still online and obviously people are moving to Blue Sky. Do you agree with that take, Rachel? Because I know that you are still on those platforms.
Yeah, it's really weird. I think both like what you're both saying is like so true. It's the idea that there's not like this kind of attitude of like, oh, excitement around games at the moment due to a number of different things. And that is affecting like the general zeitgeistiness of 2024. Like even just looking at the Game Awards, like I was just so not impressed by any of the categories.
I vote on the Game Awards and I'm still not excited about those nominations. I'm just like,
it just kind of annoys me in that like even though this year has just been really devoid of any like excitement around games, and just looking at like the Game of the Year category in that and just seeing like just whatever triple A just happens to release this year, whether it be like a fucking DLC or remake or whatever.
Oh, don't get me started.
I just feel a bit like I feel like even then I feel almost annoyed that Balatro was nominated, that's great, but like you still couldn't have been like, hey, in this year devoid of any like a big like blockbuster game, you still refuse to like nominate other very strong indie games that have released this year. And that's true, this like whole AA or like indie games getting a bit bigger, like I honestly would be like very surprised if any sort of awards like managed to vote more than one indie darling of the year. And I don't know, it just feels very, very strange.
Yeah, it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm out there, I'm out there making the case for Balatro now. Balatro, I'm really bad at getting it right. Because, it is the indie that's emerged as the like game, the indie game that's kind of in with a chance at a lot of the bigger awards. And I'm like, I love to see that. And I know how big of an influence it had on a lot of people this year. But yeah, I mean, like, I will say, like, as I've mentioned, VG247, we hold a seat on the Game Awards. Between the sort of 7 or 8 of us who are on staff, we hold a joint vote. And I'm not the only one who's interested in indies, despite being a AAA focused site. We pushed for a lot of indies, and it was, am I allowed to say I'm a little disappointed to see it come back with such a kind of generic, I was honestly, one thing that really got me, and this is going to sound really, I don't know how this is going to sound, but like I was actively disappointed in a way to see Life is Strange Double Exposure up for Games for Impact, or whatever they call it, the Game Awards, because like I played it and I do feel it had an impact on me, but I think that it was nominated because people consider Life is Strange a series that does that rather than because of its own merits. Yeah. Whereas I think I've seen a lot more indie games that did that better this year than this particular entry into this particular series that is known for it. Mm-hmm. And it's that kind of feeling that a lot of things were kind of almost legacied in to their categories rather than voted on like the merit of the game that came out this year. And like maybe that's a very reductive take on other people's, because like I say, you know, speaking for myself, I get why that game like actually did have an impact, maybe less obviously than the rest of the franchise, but I understand the argument you could make for it. But ahead of things like, again, 1,000 Times Resist, you know, I guess Indica did make it, but we had so many games that we were trying to put through for that category, and like one made it.
Yeah.
To see kind of bigger franchises just take the space that they always take was frustrating.
I often feel like this about the Game Awards though, so I'm curious if that's reflected in other publications' Game of the Year lists to see how much indies are put in there in you know, in place of some of these bigger AAA games that kind of haven't really released with any impact this year.
Yeah.
But just thinking about indies, and I guess this kind of goes into the same conversation we were having about maybe struggling to think of the narrative or really get our arms around this year. What are the themes that we think have defined them in 2024? Ooh. So I'll just start with a few I came up with. I think layoffs. I think you're right, Rachel. I think layoffs in the general state of the industry has tarnished the general mood this year. I feel like it's hard to play a game this year without thinking about the human impact of this industry and how many people have suffered and been sort of like pushed out of it, which is just horrific.
Yeah.
Again, like I mentioned before, I think this idea of indie sort of reaching AA status, and I've been thinking a lot this year about places like Devolver and other sort of indie publishers and thinking, well, okay, but I guess because AAA sort of killed the AA market because AA's became AAA's and then AAA's became quadruple A's, and now indies are sort of filling that vacuum. I think it's great, and it's definitely within the remit of this podcast to be celebrating that indies are becoming the new AAAs, which is a nonsense nothing statement. Say that to your mum and see what she says. Mum, did you know that indies are becoming the new AAAs? That's very nice, dear. Are you still taking your ADHD medication? You are? Okay, that's good. But I think the biggest theme of this year is, and we've already touched on this, is I just don't feel like anything's really stuck. Like, I don't feel like conversations have lasted very long.
Yeah.
I feel like people have been moving on so fast. And I think it has been about all games this year. And I do wonder if it's based on what I said before. Also, a personal theme is that I just don't feel like I've connected to indies as much as I normally
Interesting.
have. With
really?
a few exceptions. I do. I feel like all 5 games on my Game of the Year list last year I loved.
Yeah.
Like I adored. This year, I feel like 2/3 I really emotionally connected with. The other third, I'm sort of like, yeah, this is good, and I can see that it's objectively going to recommend it, but I don't think it'll linger in the mind like all mine from last year. But yeah, I'm curious what both of your takes on that.
I have a take on this that might be it's definitely very personal, possibly slightly controversial.
Love it. Go for it.
It's not. I've built it up now. It's not going to be that good. Is that my feeling about like new games this year that I've really grown to like connect with on that personal level have kind of like filled a very specific niche for me. And like, as you say, last year I was all about the like, you know, this is art. This is what we can do artistically in this medium. And this year, all of the games that I've really grown to love, and this, spoiler alert for next week, will be reflected in my quite wild personal top 5, have kind of like filled this niche of like comfort and almost like being like little task oriented, which sounds really really like, I don't want to make it sound infantilized or do down the work that those developers do, because all game development is hard work and these are genuinely good games, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about like from AAA down to indie, the games that I've really connected with are the ones that are like, okay, so it's maybe a bigger game where you only engage with a very small part. You choose as the player to engage with a smaller part of it, or it's like quite a simple gameplay loop, or it's quite a small but open like set of optional objectives. And I think that just, it feels like the mood has been different. I totally agree. And I don't know if that's me reacting to the mood of kind of the year in games, but that's kind of where I've like last year I was all about like, give me the sweeping narrative, like prove that people who say the best video game narrative is only as good as like a mid-tier movie. I'm like, no, that's wrong. And we can demonstrate it's wrong with like so many of the games that came out last year. But this year I've been like, kind of, I don't want to confuse this with games as a service, but I kind of do understand like the continuum of, give me like this virtual life where I have this set of tasks that I complete, and I have this, this kind of like building something and incremental goals and that sort of thing. And like I kind of switched off to new game narratives this year almost in a way that I wouldn't have expected. I don't know what the conclusion is to that. I just think it's an interesting personal observation, and there is a little bit of that borne out, I think, in a lot of the fact that what we've seen come up for a lot of Game of the Year awards in terms of AAA. Oh, I mean, Balatro fits this as well, right? It's like you've got a lot of these big RPGs with kind of so many systems that are optional, and you've got the poker roguelike, and you've got, one of the things that was up for discussion a lot at my work, which didn't make the list eventually, but kind of is in the same vein, is a lot of us really loved Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, which is just basically 7 different games mashed together, and it's like, just play the bits you like,
Pick and choose.
It's got that kind of, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like that that variety box of entertainment, but maybe not with the big artistic, ambitions of the games that made 2023. I still think 2023 is going to go down as a really iconic year in gaming history. I think that's pretty much nailed on at this point. And yeah, there's just not really been the mood this year.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, I was kind of looking, I haven't felt any different from this year, from last year in terms of releases. I think there's been some really strong releases. I think this might be a bit spicy. From looking at the Game Awards, still going to bring up the Game Awards, and looking at Balatro and why everyone's going on about Balatro, I do feel like there's a trend in the indie space, or picking indie darlings. It's like the Vampire Survivors effect. Of course, a game which takes you 10 minutes to do a playthrough or half an hour is going to be everyone's favorite indie of the year, because like it's just like it didn't take you any, like, it's so consumable, it didn't take you any time at all. So of course that's going to be the top of critics' lists. And it, as much as Balatro is amazing, it does frustrate me that like there's so many other games that I just feel like I don't know. Last year,
like echoes of Inscription there as well, I thought, personally. I don't know how you felt about that, Rachel. But
Inscription?
Like, yeah, it kind of, I know that was a little bit more involved, but it has the kind of, you can finish Inscription quite quickly.
I feel like everyone dropped off Act 2 and they were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's like, I finished the game, but it was just weird.
Yeah, most people that praise Inscription, I think, just played the beginning bit, like the first few hours.
I think you could make a really good point, though, with when you look at those three as like the sort of 3 of the big indie standouts. I mean, Dredge could almost be in the same boat.
I think Dredge is very much in that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like bite-sized indies, as opposed to something where you just sit and play for like, I love a good 4-hour indie, right? But even that seems to be, and I find this myself when I'm trying to fit stuff in, like such an ask sometimes when you're trying to think, I could just sit for 4 hours and like do nothing, or I could play a really solid 4-hour narrative-driven indie, but that just, the barrier to that versus something you can put down after 10 minutes. I think you've got such a good point there, Rachel. It's like,
it's just a bit,
there's something psychologically in that, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think that happens, Rachel?
I honestly, like, it's a lot of things that we have talked about on the podcast before, though, isn't it? It's like, it's the pressures of a bunch of critics and journalists being, no jobs, lots of work, grinding, playing, staying up to date with games. There's just no time for indies. And so, like, these bigger games get, even if there are none, whatever people are playing, whatever people are going to click on gets priority. And so when we come to these kind of awards, it's almost like, even though people like yourself, Rebecca, are on these teams of people and like promoting indie games, I still think a lot of websites and a lot of conversation is still going to be led to the bigger games instead of like, and you know what, I mean, that is a problem. Like this year, last year, the year before, big narrative games like 1000 Times Resist, or I don't know, last year in Stars and Time, these games that are heavily narrative, they take hours to play. There's just not enough time to play them, let alone engage with them on a certain level. And like Balatro and Vampire Survivors, which is like the bestest dopamine hit. Like it's so tasty and like, delicious, which I love as well. But indies are known for exploring like the fringes of like conversations and communities, and like they're narrative based. And I just think they just can get completely sidelined in these kind of situations.
Yeah.
But focus on a more positive aspect. In terms of like micro trends in what has released this year, I mean, puzzle games have dominated the indie space this year. If we're looking at some of the best games released this year, Lorelei's in the mix, Rise of the Golden Idol, the sequel to one of the decade's best detective games released this year, Animal Well released this year. I just think maybe it's because of working for Thinky, but also outside of that, this is the year of just really solid puzzle games, like in general.
Yeah.
I just think if we look at what's released, a bunch of it are puzzle-centric games. Like a Ranger released this year, fantastic puzzle game.
Oh, yeah.
There's like Great God Grove, played with like language and words. Yeah, a Ranger, you literally rearrange the world on a grid. I really liked a detective game called No Case Should Remain Unsolved. No one's talking about it, but that was such a fucking good detective game.
What?
Like, it's just, there are so many really good puzzle games this year. And so if we're looking at trends and genres, let's go puzzle games. Let's get people thinking.
Definitely.
And I don't think that's just like a personal thing. I do think like this year, the best indies have been ones that make you think. And even though my game of the year isn't necessarily a puzzle game. But yeah, for sure. I think that's definitely a trend we're seeing this year. And the other one, which I'm sure you two can talk about, is we've seen this kind of slow and steady rise of retro aesthetic horror games throughout the years. And this is the year where 4 of them released, and they are all absolutely stunning. From my head, Crow Country, Brun, Mouthwashing, and Arctic Eggs. Those 4 are just unbelievable horror / unsettling / surreal. Because Arctic Eggs isn't like horror, but it is kind of. Anyway, so I think you two should honestly speak on that as well, because it's something we've been seeing on Itch for a while and smaller games, but this year I feel like those 4, especially Mouthwashing and Crow Country, are a big part of the indie conversation this year. So speak on it.
Yeah. I mean, I think those 2 genres you just identified, puzzle games and like retro horror, I totally agree. I think that I think that there is a sort of you know how there's the whole thing of like no horror film's going to get nominated for an Oscar unless it's like the most high art horror film ever. Horror games and puzzle games are in the same kind of boat when it comes to end of the year awards. I think that quite often
such a good point
in those genres deserve to go through than do. Because even when you talk about like, you know, what you just named are some amazing retro horror games, I can think of some that were just really good as well. You know, I could add more to that list. I don't know. Are we doing a what we've been playing today, by the way? Did I read that part in the script?
We're not, because I've lost my mind and the second half of this is going to take.
That's cool. In which case I'll just go ahead and say it now. Like 2 games that I've checked out recently are Fear the Spotlight and Amanda the Adventurer 2, both of which are also retro styled horror. And while I wouldn't say they're necessarily like game of the year material, those are really good games. That's just, you know, an example of the year we've had. Is you can, you know, almost like throw a dart at a dartboard and hit like any retro style horror game this year. And you'd be like, you'd have a pretty good time if that's what you're into. And it's the same with, you know, as you say with puzzles. I mean, again, slight skew to my own favor, but oh my God, the things that like a group like DevCats have been doing just every couple of months.
Oh yeah, your besties.
Right. But they used to do like 1 game every year or 2 games a year. And this year they've done so many. They've got 1 more due out before the year is through. That's like 4 major games from them, and it's just, you know, nice to see all of that, from like the gentle sort of hidden object to the more like complex kind of cerebral puzzles. again, it's just been taken away in the background. And I think that maybe that's the thing. Is like, you cannot argue, right? You cannot argue that this year has lacked games. There have been, if anything, too many games, and that's part of the problem. But I do think that maybe the focus this year, not the focus, because that's the conversation's not followed the trends, which is into, like, as we've been saying, just the things we don't talk about, the kind of like the task simulators and the puzzle games and the throwback horror and just the things that don't get nominated because they're not thought of as being super high art.
Yeah.
And, it's hard, right? Because you have to sort of, as an industry with this many facets, exert some sort of control over what goes into the sort of celebrations at the end of the year, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like we do definitely like pick genres that we sort of think of as, as the more important ones. And obviously I'm going to be like, I'm guilty of this too, because I don't play war games or sports games, which immediately cuts me out of like so much of what is very commercially successful at the kind of top end of the AAAs. But yeah, I don't know. It's just this strange, and you see it you see it in all sorts of literary awards and film awards as well. It's definitely not just a games industry thing, but I don't know what the solution is really. I'm just identifying that when the trend turns away from the sort of the conventional narrative, then like you are left with this sort of weird feeling of like, well, there wasn't really like a super arty and involving narrative that we could all agree on this year, and like where does that leave us?
Well, there might have been if you had played a certain game, Rebecca. There might have been.
I know.
There might have been.
I know.
There might have been.
It still exists. But I mean, regardless of, I'm not talking about me in this. What I'm talking about is like the conversation in the industry. So like, obviously I know I need to play 1,000 times Resist. I'm going to play 1,000 times Resist. But like, I personally could not change the conversation, which was people saying exactly what I'm saying, which is a lot of games media people saying, gosh, we really need to be playing 1,000 times Resist, and they're just not doing it because there's so much else to do.
Yeah. And you can't play it for 10 minutes and get the shape of it.
Exactly.
Like Rachel was saying. Just on your point about retro aesthetic horror and retro aesthetic in general, it's interesting because I feel like that's been a thing for a while now. And this year, I think we've started to see games that are more emulating like PlayStation 2 levels of graphics and aesthetics. But I think what's just with you saying that, what I've been chewing on is I sort of feel like maybe this year we've seen a response to PlayStation 1 aesthetic horror games from a few years ago by a group of people who have said, I see what you're going for, but you haven't quite hit the mark. And that's how I felt about Crow Country. I feel like Mouthwashing does that a lot as well. It sort of feels like people going, if you're going to use the aesthetic, you've got to do it like this. And almost the games we've had this year feel like responses to 4 or 5 years ago when people were like, this is cheaper to do, so let's just like emulate it in a cool way. Yeah. And a lot of those games maybe got by just on the familiarity with that art style and the uniqueness of it. But I'm wondering just from this conversation and yeah, puzzle games definitely. I think if we're going to pull any theme out of this year, I think puzzle is the genre that has really shined this year. And I wonder if that in of itself is a response to things like the original Case of the Golden Idol and Obra Dinn proving that players don't need to be they don't need their hands holding. You can give them complex puzzles and they will push through it if the going is good. But I just wonder as well, just maybe games are just like indie games particularly have been around so long now as a genre with weight that's so accessible through things like digital storefronts that are at a point now where it's a full industry in of itself, and being indie doesn't make you unique enough to warrant conversation. It doesn't make you unique enough. It's not like, finally we have an indie sports game. Finally we have an indie narrative that challenges AAA. Like, I haven't been surprised by much this year, not in a bad way.
Oh, interesting.
I've loved most of what I played, like I say. But I'm just curious if maybe we're just reaching the point now where everyone, like, yeah, it's indies. Like, everyone knows indies. They're sort of like part of they've fully merged in with the industry.
Yeah, like large. The headline of one person made this game. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
we're sort of used to that narrative now, actually. And the conversation I had with Zalavi earlier this year, he was like, well, actually that narrative is so prevalent that it can be almost quite damaging, and people almost expect something of you now because it's so common.
Yeah.
But no, that's really interesting themes. I think the puzzle observation is very astute. And I don't just think it's because you work in a Thinky. I think you would have played a lot of these games regardless and certainly would have highlighted them.
They are good puzzle games this year. Oh, and you know what? They're all different. They are all different. Metroid Brainia, Animal Well, first person, mansion, weird, what the fuck's going on, riddle, Lorelei, word scrabble, who done it, murder mystery, Golden Idol. Like, these are all puzzle games that all, like, within the genre of puzzle game, tap into different types of puzzle games, and it's amazing. Oh, love to see it. Yeah, so good.
Actually, what I really love about indies in general is how sometimes it's really hard to give a 2-second elevator pitch.
Yes.
Like, and you were saying this, I think, when you interviewed Color Grey, right? The creators of Golden Idol, and they were like, it's so fucking hard to try and tell people what this game is in like less than a minute.
Yes.
Just to do a bit of reflection, I'd love to know, and maybe we can just like say some games out loud each, and then we'll circle back and just like have a conversation. Which indies did you think were going to be the most important of this year at the start of the year? So, Rachel, do you want to just like shoot some names out, and then Rebecca can, then I can?
Yeah, absolutely. Pacific Drive, straight off the bat. Shined bright, then a week later, no one cared anymore. I honestly thought with the hype leading up to it, there was going to be a long tail on that game. No one gave a fuck after a week.
Yeah.
I think it did actually let a lot of people down. I think in the mid game, and also it was quite long, so maybe that reason. Don't know, haven't played it. Another one which is going to fall down the wayside for me. Plucky Squire, another one that I thought was going to be game of the year. I was so locked in. I was like, people were hype about it. People were like really, another puzzle game. Is it a puzzle game? Yeah, I guess it is kind of a puzzle game-ish. Action, adventure, puzzle. It's a lot of things. That was another one which I thought, shit, this has got game of the year written all over it. Meh. Again, played it. People were kind of lukewarm on it, fell down to the wayside. Those are the two for me that absolutely stick out. But apart from that, I mean, a lot of games also got delayed until next year, which is absolutely okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, early access Hades 2, again, I thought that was going to be talk of the town for so long, even though it was early access. But again, big week, shone bright. Ooh, yeah, Hades 2, and then nothing. Whether that's because it's early access or not, we had a really interesting conversation about that in one of the earlier episodes. But that was another one which I was like, you know what, for my, since we talked about it, I've not thought about it, I've not played it. They released another update for it. I didn't see many people talk about it. Like, that's another one. So for me, those three, I think. What about you two?
Yeah, Rebecca, what was that for you? What did you think was going to dominate the conversation?
I'm referring to the list where I keep my brain.
Oh, I've got mine up. I've got my spreadsheet up too.
I've got mine up as well.
As Rachel said, I think that a thing worth acknowledging, which is absolutely fine, is that a lot of the games that I kind of highlighted at the start of the year have been pushed into 2025 or maybe don't even have release dates. So with that as a kind of like caveat, games I thought were going to be a really big deal, like Demonschool is on there, could still be because that's now next year. Phoenix Springs is another one that we have now played, Rachel and I have played and enjoyed, but I feel that I really thought that was going to that was going to grab the indie scene by the neck in a way that it unfortunately kind of didn't. Just scrolling desperately through the list, things that we saw come up at Indie Cup last year, like Farewell North, I thought could be another kind of like, I didn't think it was going to be sort of anyone's game of the year necessarily, but I was like, I thought it might come up alongside things like Sea of Solitude and that sort of like that vein of like quite contemplative, like mental health based things. Psychroma is another one that I feel like got quite a lot of.
Ooh, which one was that, Rebecca?
Oh,
yeah, I don't know what that is.
Psychroma is a game that was announced. I think it was announced at an indie showcase I covered for RPS a couple of years ago. So I was there at midnight thinking that this game looked totally amazing. It's a kind of like side-scrolling, cyberpunk, kind of like mystery, thriller, slightly psychological horror. It's very queer. It's very sort of... I've played a bit of it now, and it's another one that I'm like, I've played a bit of it, but I just didn't have time to finish it alongside all the other things I don't have time to finish. I thought that might make a splash. It did come out in June and obviously didn't, sadly.
Really?
And there's another one as well, finally. Close to the Distance as well, which came out in August.
That one has been around a while as well. I remember.
It has, I mean, like...
people getting excited for that.
Dear friend and colleague Kelsey reviewed it for VG and really rated it. And again, it's the sort of like the elevator pitch on that one was so strong, right? It was like The Sims meets Life is Strange. You know, it's got this very like, I think it might actually have been nominated for something at the Game Awards. To be fair, I think that might have made the Games for Impact category, which is good. But again, it's like, I just feel like in a different year that would have, you know, there's so many of these. And that's actually what I wanted to bring up with a lot of the games that I've played in the indie space this year is I have played so many that I was excited for that have come out as like solid 4 stars for me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think it's been a real year of that, actually.
It's been a real year across the board, to be fair, not just in the indies area, but like that whole, it's a solid 4 star, but there's something that's keeping it from being like, oh my God, the most amazing thing that I need to shout to all my friends about.
Oh, interesting.
And almost, this is kind of like a weird thing, but like, it's almost easier to talk about a horror game or a puzzle game in that sense, because I think people have slightly lower expectations of those genres. So I find it kind of easy to go, oh, Fear the Spotlight, you know, like, bearing in mind Mouthwashing is definitely one of my favorite games of the year, and I think that is a solid 5-star experience. It's got a couple of issues, but like no game's perfect, so I'm not gonna knock it for that. It definitely stands out as above and beyond in my opinion. But if I point to something like Amanda the Avenger 2, like Fear the Spotlight, like so many things, and go, you know, this is a really solid horror game with some issues, but you'll have a really good time if you like horror. It's easier to say that than to look at something like Psychroma and be like, yeah, it's kind of like, or Phoenix Springs, like we were discussing in the last episode. And it's like, yeah, it's really good. There's just a little something that doesn't quite click as fully as I'd like. And that's a harder sell, I think, in certain genres than in others.
Yeah. How about you then, Liam? What games?
You've all mentioned the things that I thought were going to be important. Animal Well was one of them, but that was because we kind of had the inside track from being at PAX last year and playing it. You know, that just sort of gave us that insight, and we were like, okay, this is going to be something special. And it was special, and people did talk about it. But again, I felt like the conversation for that dropped off very fast. And this might sound like a joke answer, but we genuinely have spoke about it a lot this year, is Silksong. I really thought we'd see Silksong this year.
Good point. Yeah.
Interesting.
And the Hades 2 conversation that we had, we did say, well, if Silksong drops, will it dominate the conversation over Hades 2? The year we've had, I would have been very interested to have seen how Silksong would have been received. I wonder how impactful it would have been.
I mean, it's almost got, it's the indie equivalent of Shadow of the Erd Tree energy to it, to me, which is a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
I sort of feel like it's getting to the point where it has like Last Guardian energy, where it's sort of just like becoming this almost mythic thing that might never be able to live up to its own expectations because it's... Yeah, I guess we'll see about that.
I honestly think that...
says with a Trico statue behind her. But
when Silksong releases, it will have every golden ticket to every awards like ever. It will be the indie darling, no question. So. No matter what else comes out that year, it will dominate. So luckily Hades 2 early access came out this year because they would absolutely, even though it's super giant, they'd get crushed by it. Not only every single Metroidvania will be absolutely crushed in the genre, every indie that comes out the same year, Silksong will be crushed by it.
Absolutely.
So,
it's a rare...
very interesting.
I mean, I do think Hades 2 1.0 probably won't replicate the originals. Because that almost came out of nowhere, right? It was the... You know, it was a very specific
Supergiant have their process
sort of rise
now
that you can't replicate, right? But there is that thing where it's like there are just a few titles that you're surprised when you remember that they're indie because they're so big now in the conversation, right? And I think as we've probably demonstrated over the last hour or so, breaking into the conversation is like half the battle at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I, I think that's my conclusion. If we must conclude this ramble, is that I think that last year, just the enthusiasm of the conversation elevated a lot of indies, and there hasn't been such an enthusiastic conversation this year, and that has been to the detriment of getting more eyes on some really good indies.
Well, to maybe not counter that, but to pair the last conversation we've had, I was thinking about some games that have actually dominated the conversation this year. And I was quite surprised by how many have been the talk of the town, as it were. So I'll just read some out here and then you can contribute if you've thought of any. So obviously Balatro, we've spoken about before. Balatro was huge. I think Balatro getting a mobile release in the same year it dropped was a very, very smart move on behalf of the publisher and the dev there.
Absolutely.
I think I read somewhere that had made like it was either 4 or 40 million it had made already just from mobile alone, which does not surprise me. I've people at work have started talking about Balatro recently as a phone game, just to show you how much it's breaking into sort of the normie conversation. Lethal Company was this year. It came out last October, but the conversation and the zeitgeisty moment for Lethal Company, we played it in February.
January, wasn't it? February.
It was just after Christmas or over Christmas.
So true. I hadn't even considered Lethal Company, to be honest, because I thought of it, it's a 2023 game technically, but you're so right. We need a bit of grace for late year releases to go into the next year.
It definitely became a thing this year. If I'm remembering that right, I'm very old now. Pal World is a bit of a dubious definition.
I was reading about Pal World earlier.
Yeah, that was a huge 2024 game. Manor Lords, a game that we didn't talk about.
See, now that's one that gives me big, I keep forgetting it's indie vibes.
It's made by one person.
Yeah, that's wild. That's great.
That is.
Yeah. And that was the most wishlisted game on Steam at the start of the year, I think.
Oof. Yeah.
But then there's also games like Abiotic Factor. Am I saying that right? Abiotic Factor, which is it's the survival game that's riffing on the original Half-Life, where you play a bunch of scientists in like a secret government base that's overtaken by aliens, and you've got to try and like survive. And that became huge this year. Absolutely enormous.
I have never heard of this game. This is so interesting.
Me neither, which is shocking.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I think it's got like overwhelmingly positive reviews, right? Like it's got a huge community around it. Yeah. And these are games that I saw a lot of people talk about sort of outside of the usual circles that we discuss. But yeah, outside of the games that we've spoken about, are there any that you can think of that have sort of like dominated the conversation, but have not passed us by, but maybe we haven't spoken about them as much or anything like that?
Not really. I've been Balatro. That's the only one that really comes to mind. It dominated. Everyone still, even the Steam Deck being called the Balatro machine just shows you like everyone was just got christened that. So that's the only one that I can really think of.
The chokehold it had on everyone this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as we've established, I'm so behind on the stuff that I know you guys have told me is worth playing. It's trust me, if there's anything else that I don't know about, I don't want to know about it at this point.
Yeah, I'm getting to that point as well of the year. Yeah. Stop telling me about cool games, please. I don't want to know about them. Rachel, I'm looking at you here. Stop it. Although, other than that one game that I'm currently playing that I'm very happy you spoke about, because fucking hell, I can't wait to talk about that next week. Let's just end with a very small thought exercise. So in January of this year, our first episode of the year, we spoke about the games we were most excited about for 2024. And I thought it might be quite nice to just have a think about where we're at with them. So I'm going to read out each of your games, and then I'll give you some space to sort of either justify yourself, defend yourself for some of these choices, or just talk a little bit about what happened there, or maybe which ones didn't quite make the mark. So Rachel, in January, you mentioned 1000 Times Resist. Just always finger on that pulse all the time. Demonschool, The Mermaid's Tongue, Thank Goodness You're Here, and Rise of the Golden Idol.
So Mermaid's Tongue is now Mermaid Mask. Don't know why they did that.
Yep.
That was delayed until next year. Well, not delayed. I think that was coming soon, but it was very wishful thinking. I was like, if that comes out this year, that'd be amazing. And then
they were co-developing with Crow Country, weren't they? So,
and then Demonschool got delayed until early next year, so that's fine. But apart from that, 1000 Times Resist, Thank Goodness You're Here, and Rise of the Golden Idol. She was born correct, folks. She was born correct.
Yeah, that is a solid
ding,
list.
ding, ding.
Rebecca, do you ever think, Rebecca, about what this podcast would have been like if we didn't have Rachel?
Yes. It's a horrifying thought. I think we would still be making it. I genuinely think that. But I don't think that we would have.
I took a gamble on Rise of the Golden Idol because that really could have gone one of two ways. If that game wasn't like really fucking good, it would have been disappointing. Like it had a big hurdle to jump over, and it did. Yeah, I knew 1000 X Resist was going to absolutely bang because, I mean, Jesus Christ, that game. And then Goodness You're Here was another one which was like, how could you not love that? Like everyone who's played it has loved it.
I adore that game so much.
So very safe choices apart from Rise from me. I will say that.
Well, they're safe in hindsight. I don't think in January.
I knew 1000 X Resist. I knew. That was zero risk. I was like, zero risk here.
That you were right. I knew you were right. I wasn't sure it was going to break the mainstream. And, you know, as we've said, the way that it has, which is not as much as you would like to see.
This is the thing. I don't even know if it has. I mean, in my little bubble, people are chatting about it, but I've seen
it long listed for a lot of sort of Game of the Year chats, but I've not seen. Obviously, sites haven't released their Game of the Year stuff.
That'll be interesting.
We're not sure.
But yeah, and then I think Demonschool was another one that was. I think I might have said this, but that was another one where I wasn't quite sure. Like we had played the demos and everything, but again, it was like I'm feeling really good about this game, but also I'm not quite sure about it. And then Mermaid Mask.
Yeah.
I just love that team. So we'll look forward to that in 2025.
Yeah, can't wait for that. So Rebecca, you said Sucker for Love, Date to Die For, Tiny Bookshop, Creepshow, Loco Motive, and Lost Records, Bloom and Rage.
Awesome. Okay. Well, 3 of those haven't come out. One of them came out 6 days ago at the time of recording, and I will be honest, I have not had time to check it out. It's definitely on my massive list of things to do.
Loco Motive.
Locomotive came out on the 21st. It's now the 27th at the time of recording. It's reviewing reasonably well from what I've seen. It's not setting the world on fire, but it's doing people are saying it's a nice sort of LucasArts throwback style, doesn't quite hit the heights, but doesn't totally flub it, seems to be the consensus on that one. Of the 3 that haven't come out, Lost Records has been delayed into February of next year because just to not clash with Life is Strange Double Exposure, which makes total sense. Happy for them that they've made that choice. And I think probably they'll do well next year. I just worry that with it releasing so early next year, it will again be kind of out of the conversation by the time. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're not going for awards. There are reasons to do this other than going for awards season, right?
Yes.
So that's legit.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Tiny Bookshop, not sadly, still doesn't have a firm release date. It was kind of maybe going to be this year when it was first kind of being floated around, and that's kind of obviously not happened. They did have a presence at the latest Steam Next Fest, though, which is kind of usually a hopeful indicator that maybe next year is the target for the team.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it in 2025. I've got a good feeling that 2025 might be the year that we see Tiny Bookshop. But if we don't, again, it's fine.
It absolutely is fine. What I love about this game is it's just sort of a permanent fixture of both podcasts we've done, is being Tiny Bookshop will come out eventually, and we're like, can't wait.
Yes.
And then it's going to be the 3rd year of doing this in 2 podcasts where we're going to be like, Tiny Bookshop.
It's coming.
I've got such a good feeling about it on the basis that it has basically replaced Little Kitty Big City as the game that's just that Demonschool and Tiny Bookshop are the 3 games that I just feel like I've had on my radar for such a long time, but I'm super happy with that.
I can't wait to play Tiny Bookshop. It looks amazing.
It's very cute.
Creepshow. Creepshow was the other one to just quickly address. There has not been a single word about that game since it was announced. I got very preemptively excited. And literally I've been intermittently Googling, just surely Dread XP Creepshow, something's happened. It's not been officially cancelled or anything. It just doesn't seem that there's a lot of work going. I mean, there could be a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but they're very tight-lipped. I don't know if it's because it's a fairly big IP for a indie publisher to be working on. I don't know the details. Literally all we have is a single blog post from 2 years ago that got me very excited, and that's it. Which leaves Sucker for Love, Date to Die For, which I reviewed when it came out in April and I liked a lot. But that was never going to be... That was going to be another one in that same vein of I will really like it. It is in a series I like. It is, it hits a lot of my interests.
Yeah.
And if you're a weirdo like me who wants to smooch hot monsters, then absolutely go for it. I think that it sat in its niche really perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably all it did, but that's legit,
I think you're right. I think it did that Dread XP thing of, hey, we're going to cater for specific people and those people buy those games and love them. And Dread XP are a sensible publisher that goes, yep, we'll keep making them then.
Yes.
Which I just absolutely love to see, which is fantastic.
In fairness, I am the only critic quoted on any of the Sucker for Love Wikipedia pages, I think. So I may be slightly biased.
Love
it. It's basically...
welcome to the club.
I was about to say, it's my Slayer's accent. It was fake.
Niche indies that no other critics wrote about for notable publications.
Yep.
So the games that I put down were Pacific Drive. Rachel, you've already covered how I felt about that. I was very excited for it. It came out with a bit of a nay.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying it's a bit too long and maybe it's a bit too fiddly. And I just sort of said, okay, I'll wait until maybe it gets a few patches. And then obviously that doesn't really work when you're doing what we're doing. Angerfoot, I was really excited about, and I played a few hours, spoke about it on this podcast, said I really liked it, and then just didn't go back to it because the performance was quite ropey on PC. And I was like, again, I'll wait for a patch. And that's been my killer this year is I'll wait and then I just never go back. Crow Country, I've already said my thoughts about Crow Country. Maybe I'll speak more about it next week. Next episode, rather. And then the other two I wrote down was Europa, which is the Ghibli-style exploration game that did come out. And I felt like people sort of mildly liked it, but it didn't really make too much of a splash. Yeah. And Synergy, which is a base building game or like a resource management city builder that I didn't hear anything about when it dropped. I only realized it had come out when I was searching for games earlier today to do this podcast plan. So, I mean, that's always the case with indies as, things get pushed, things get bumped, some things come out and don't quite hit the same. But in general, just to wrap this up, do you think we'll look back at 2024 as a memorable year, or do you think we'll think of individual games and go, oh yeah, they came out then?
I don't know. For me, every year I look back and I'm like, oh, that came out then. I don't think I look back at a particular year, apart from maybe May this year and be like, God, do you remember May? Like, that's what I'll remember
just
from.
The indie
That's a good point, actually.
May the 9th, 2024 is a year of indie games on its own.
So I think, I'll look back on May 2024, but I think I'll just do individual games. That's not unusual for me, though. I think I'll just be like, that's strong year, but nothing stand out. And apart from May, which, oh my God.
Good old May. What about you, Rebecca?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I wonder if, and bearing in mind that I think 2023 is the only year that I have had this strong sense of like gaming identity while it was happening. It's usually with a lot of hindsight that I look back on like 2004 and think, wow, a lot of games I really love came out in 2004. But I think that if there's anything, there's probably going to be a tendency, and maybe I'm anticipating too much here. I wonder how much, if I'm lucky enough to be looking back in another 20 years on the games industry.
God, I hope.
And the state of it in 2020.
Yeah, me too. What are you on about?
Well, I'm not trying to be grim. I'm just saying maybe I'll have other interests in 20 years' time.
Oh, okay.
Fair enough.
I thought you were,
nothing super apocalyptic, although now that you mention it, the apocalypse, looming dread. Let's not go there. I just genuinely I can foresee a future where I am so burned out on video games I just don't think about them when I'm in my 50s, but also I can see me still being a big nerd for video games for the rest of my life. We'll have to see. Where was I going with this? There was a point. I wonder how much I will push certain things back and think of them as 2023 like tail end, and how much I push things forward into 2025, which is already shaping up to contain. I'm not super excited for many AAAs in 2025, but I've got a quite big list of AA's and indies that are due to come out next year that I'm pretty excited for. So I wonder how much it's going to have that kind of split. And when I think about things like, for example, it is actually possible if you put your mind to it to play a game not in the year of release, and things like I played the Cosmic Will Sisterhood this year. And, that kind of like, I stretched 2023 well into April. And I'll probably, I wonder how much I'll kind of begin to separate into categories based on like the vibe, rather than the literal calendar year, and kind of think maybe this is a bit of a like slump year in terms of the vibe, but possibly surrounded by 2 good years. Fingers crossed. I would like to believe 2025 is going to be another good year.
I think next year we'll do another 2024 revisited like we did this year with 2023.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely, because I'm gonna have to bloody play 1,000 times Resist. I know it, you know it, we all know it. Look, I know I do. It's just I keep tracking stuff on how long to beat. Yeah. Look, I'm Rachel. You know I'm getting that. Rachel, you know I'm getting that. You're watching me work through Danganronpa V3, finally, getting closer and closer to Paradise Killer every single day.
Yes.
We're getting there. We're getting to a game from 2020. Yeah, we go. But I think you're right. And that's what we spoke about last year, didn't we? Is, hey, we might come back to 2024 games in 3 or 4 years when Rachel and I do the podcast, but Rebecca no longer cares about video games. And
look.
We'll reflect on this year. But you're both wrong. The correct answer is we'll always think of 2024 as the year of Rebecca. As it shall forever formerly be known.
That's actually so true.
That is so true.
It's been weird. It's been so weird how much stuff has specifically targeted me, and there's no point in talking at length about that on a podcast because it has been ridiculously personalized marketing from...
it's been wild. It's been so funny.
Really has.
So funny.
Right. Shall we move on to a section that I am regretting even before we've done it.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
So I just really want to contextualize for the listeners what exactly it says in our little script for this.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Because I think it's so worth knowing what we're looking at right now, which is after a really well thought out and thoughtful and helpful outline for that discussion we just had for the last hour or so. All we've got is an old friend returns for a quiz. I'm so sorry in advance.
An old friend.
What is going to happen?
What is going to happen? Oh, fucking hell. I feel nervous. Someone's pushed a letter underneath my door. Let me just go read that for a second. I'm afraid, last year where I actually had props and a costume, you're not getting this year.
Not even a piece of paper to crumple to.
Not even nothing. It's all post.
Wait.
The costume you put on, and I thought you were going to die. You looked so overheated and COVIDy.
We need.
I was so full of COVID.
You really were.
You were. Just...
To be fair, I only ever do these Christmas episodes when there's something wrong with me. My heart rate is over. Oh, hello, what's that?
It's the letter, the
letter.
The audio.
Oh, look at this.
Pretend to open.
Here it is. The letter. Let me look at it. Let me rustle it in my hands for a second as I read it, because my heart rate's 110 beats per minute and I shake all the time. Oh, what's this? I need to run downstairs immediately. Off I pop. I'll be back in a second.
Oh my God.
I hate that you've got this new angle of me as well, so you can see me in my full shame. Let's see if I can do the voice. Ho, 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 why, if it isn't my two favourite podcast hosts, Rachel and Rebecca. I forgot your names for a second there. How are you both? Have you been good this year?
Oh, absolutely not, I'm afraid.
Oh, well, I'll be the judge of that because I'm Santa and I forgot to write who I was in this script, which is very funny. I would have rattled through this 6 paragraphs not saying who I was. It's me, Santa Claus, the man in the red suit, the guy from the Coke adverts. And you know what? I had such a wonderful time visiting the podcast last year that I've decided to come back. And you were so helpful last Christmas. Do you remember assisting me with some tenuous indie game related tasks? But
Yes, Santa.
I'm afraid I need help with a situation far more dire this time, my friends.
Oh no.
It's a bit of a tricky one. You see, once again, I've trapped your co-host Liam in a sort of cage of his own creation. It was, as always, very easy. I just left a Japanese copy of Resident Evil 4 for the Nintendo Wii on top of a pile of twigs and leaves that concealed a pit underneath. But unlike last year, this isn't a fun distraction technique so I could speak to you both. It's far from it. You see, since that incident last year, your token male co-host has sworn revenge on old St. Nicholas. He's spent the past 12 months attempting to best me in what can only be described as a sequence of increasingly concerning escalations. In January, he sent me a strongly worded letter saying he didn't appreciate nearly suffocating in a human-sized mousetrap, so in response, I stole one of his kidneys while he slept. He sent me a strongly worded letter in March saying he didn't think taking an organ was a fair response to a letter, so naturally I ran over one of his cousins with a Vauxhall Vectra. Finally, in September, he posted on LinkedIn that he was going through a challenging time, which I took as a slight against me breaking every bone in his cousin's body with a reasonably priced family vehicle, so I replaced his ADHD medication with reindeer laxatives.
Oh my God.
And now, my friends, I think the only option I have left is to kill him.
Oh.
This battle between equal forces needs to be resolved, lest it escalate any further. You seem surprised by that. I think it's a perfectly reasonable outcome to this situation, don't you?
Oh my God.
But
wow.
You see,
oh my God.
I do know you're both fond of him for some reason. Personally, I don't see it. I mean, he is a man in the games industry, for God's sake. Let's be fair. It's It's only a matter of time before something happens and you'll want to be rid of him yourselves. But let it never be said that Santa isn't a fair and just God. So I am going to give you the option to save him.
Yay! Yes!
I mean, I'm glad I'm Santa and not Liam. I'm sure if Liam heard how unenthusiastic you were about that, yes.
We're so enthusiastic.
A bit of a shock is all.
Of course, Santa.
Why are you shocked? It's perfectly normal when Santa comes in your podcast and says he's going to kill your co-host.
Yeah, to be fair.
As is customary at the North Pole with the justice system, I have created a quiz.
Of course.
And you'll be answering questions as a team. If you get over half of the questions correct, I will disable the kilogram of C4 I placed in his skull during what he believed to be a routine brain operation in June. And I will let that weird northern fuck live for another 12 months. Enjoy those consequences. He will just keep talking about Dream Settler and sad books no one gives a shit about.
I swear.
Do you want a minute to respond to this, by the way?
If this was a real person, I would absolutely beat the shit out of them.
I know, right? I'm like so invested in the fiction of this that I don't know how to respond.
Who the fuck do you think you are, Santa? I swear to God. That's our boy.
You can't beat Santa up. He's too beloved.
Oh, man.
Now,
okay, bring it on,
Are you
Santa.
ready for this quiz?
Yeah, bring it on.
You're ready?
Asshole. There we go. Is that the kind of...
Excellent.
Is that the kind of fighting talk?
Yeah,
That's good.
How's this? How's this a fine talk? I was hoping it was Big John the Baby. Santa.
Oh my.
Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yes, Rebecca.
I can't believe you'd say that. My
wait, hold
arch
on.
nemesis, Big John.
Yeah. I'm like the girl who stands behind.
Yeah, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Take that.
Like the
Oh,
playground bully hype man.
Oh my
Well, I
God.
thought we were friends. I didn't think this would be so combative. You're aware I'm talking about Liam, right? I'm not talking about, like, Ed.
Get his name out of your mouth.
He's been a very good boy this year. I wonder how that makes him feel when he listens to this.
Oh, God.
Right, well, if you're ready,
Yes.
it's time for the most dubious and regrettable part of this.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yay.
Let's play the theme song to the quiz. Oh, nope, that's an advert for Marks and Spencer's.
Ooh.
Sorry, hold on.
Ooh,
Santa
I'll take
needs
some
to
of
get
that ad
this.
money if they're feeling generous.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm about to do this, but let's go.
Wait, what? What
Nothing's
is...
coming
can
through
you not
Discord.
hear this?
No.
Nothing's coming through Discord.
Oh, even better. I'm just going to do this while you can't hear the music while I
my
record it over the
God,
microphone.
what-
Let's go.
Wait,
what
what
are we going to
hearing?
be attached to, Rachel?
Yeah, what I was listening to.
You are hearing a karaoke version of the Jackson 5 Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Please bear with me. This will sound much better when you hear it in the episode.
Oh my God.
No, this is magic.
I did not know Discord could do that. Just cut out.
Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. You'd better not cheat. You'd better not lie. This quiz is a test where failure means Liam dies. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. It's every verse, I apologize.
Oh my
He's made
God.
you a quiz. He hopes it's alright. We're gonna find out if it's decent or shite. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Fuck yes. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz.
Yes.
There's more.
Oh, okay.
He sees you when you're podding. He knows when there's a low. He's made a self-indulgent quiz. Half the answers are quite bow. Oh, you'd better focus up. Pay attention throughout. Liam's in a cage. I put a bomb in his mouth. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Now, at this point, there's a couple of woohoos that aren't on the karaoke version.
Okay.
So we're going to wait a few seconds. It's a little bit longer than you think.
Okay.
Okay.
See, it's even longer every time I think about it. But Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Little Bjorn and Tim from Blues Braid. Overplayed memes won't save your comrade. great indie games, and double A's too. Pod hosts after this will cap out at 2. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Oh yes, Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz.
Oh my god.
One more time now. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. That's right. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Santa Claus has made you a quiz. Right. There we go. As is customary in the North Pole. It's a very long song. Would you believe me if I told you it's only 1:30?
No, it's actually categorically no.
It's quite short, but I guess being sung over Discord in a silly voice, it feels much longer. Right. Are you ready for the quiz that will save your co-host's life? I practiced that so much today.
Oh, yes.
He says as Santa.
I enjoyed it.
Right.
It was it was beautiful.
I love a gag that's so long it has peaks and troughs to it.
I know.
Oh, it was so long. Imagine doing it, Rebecca. Imagine being halfway through that and thinking, I know how much of this is left. And most of it's the same word repeated.
It is. I love it. Was like the same sentence.
Yeah, it's a lot of it. It's absolutely a lot of it. Anyway, yes, that was obviously based on Santa Claus is Coming to Town by the Jackson 5 Scandal Noted. Are we ready for round 1?
My chest hurts, man.
I'm gonna wee myself. It was just like the half. It was the half singing, half talking. Okay, right.
Yeah, I really went for a certain style there.
A man's life is on the line, Rachel. We got to get serious.
Right, okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Round 1. True or false? Now, you can discuss among yourselves, but I do want a final answer. So what do you need to say? Final answer for all of these questions.
Okay.
True or false? On the 2nd of April 2010, Peggles Beyond the Unicorn published a post on his blog, Talk to the Horn, titled Is Games Art?, where he definitively settled the long-standing debate by claiming, of course not. Is that true or false?
I have seen this on the Discord, so I know that this is true.
Okay. I'm glad that you have the confidence to go in with that, because as with the song that came before it, I changed my mind several times over the course of the question.
Oh my god.
So yeah, this is true. I don't know why, but I remember someone posting it to the Discord. Unless this is a double bluff and some of the wording is weird. But I do remember something like Bjorn was like, yeah, video games are not art or something. So yeah.
It's true. Yes. You are correct. Yes. Peggles Bjorn's blog Talk to the Horn ran for, I think, 4.5 years as PopCap's official news and PR outlet.
Jesus.
Okay.
I think PopCap announced they were purchased by Electronic Arts via Bjorn's blog, which is very funny to me.
Makes sense.
Oh, God.
So, question 2. Okay. True or false? Braid is based on the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer and is an analogy for the creation of the atomic bomb.
Jesus Christ.
See, I know that I have heard that.
I have also heard that.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've heard the whole, it's an analogy for the bomb.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard the analogy for the bomb.
But the Oppenheimer bit, is this a trick?
But it's John Blow.
That's so true. Like everything that I know about this suggests that it is true, but also I'm aware that there is this complete horror show of our friend being kidnapped by a homicidal Santa to contend with. So there's a lot on the line here.
I think
what's more horrific, the fact that your co-host's life is on the line, or the song I did, which is the biggest crime?
I mean, definitely the homicide part.
I don't know.
But is the gap closer than you think?
The song was charming.
Hey, if it helps, I think Liam might pray for death after that decision.
God. I think this is true. Rebecca, what do you think?
I think it's true.
We're locking in.
Yeah.
Locking in, it is true. Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Fucking hell.
I didn't know how to react when I learned that and read the line, "The princess is the bomb." Question 3. Yep. Oh, yeah, did you not? Oh, I think she froze that.
I think that's frozen Rachel's Discord in shock. Which is
so
quite
funny.
a great
that is
React expression. Oh, man. I
sort of want to screenshot
I
that when she
know.
comes back.
I feel bad, but I kind of also do. I'm genuinely a little bit worried that she's like gone. We're talking to Liam or Santa, by the way, when we're out of...
Imagine if I kept up kayfabe.
Just...
Still...
Oh, man. I kind of love it and hate it.
Right. Well, when I revealed that the princess was the bomb, Rachel's internet died to try and save her from this section of the podcast. But you're not getting out of it that easily. You're back, and it's time for question 3. Question 3, true or false?
Right.
According to the book Games of the Cloth by Frederick Ross, 16th century priests secretly played a card game in the shadows of the Vatican that we now know by the name Balatro. True or false?
I don't think that's true.
That's gotta be false. Come on.
I think that's false. What do you think it's false, Rebecca?
Oh, you just got it. Surely. No, I don't know. No.
I
False.
don't think so. False.
That is true.
Ooh.
What?
If I was
wild.
lying, it's false. It's not
Okay.
true.
Oh,
Good. I was about to question everything.
Well, at the end of round 1, you're 3 for 3, which makes Santa not happy because he really wants that northern bastard to die. Right, round 2.
God.
It's time to bring back a game from earlier in the year. It's 3 questions about Metacritic reviews. You can get 2 points per question here. 1 for the game, 1 for the score.
Oh my god.
Question 1. This one really made me laugh when I found it earlier on my laptop in the North Pole or whatever. Question 1.
Sure.
This game isn't as good as Xenoblade Chronicles. It has no character development, no good music, no good monsters, nothing. The gameplay of blank is not as good as blank. And they put the game name there twice for some reason. They said the gameplay of the game is not as good as itself. Xenoblade lets Shuck see into the future during combat so he can avoid death. Blank lacks this level of creativity. What game do you think that is?
To be honest...
We'll guess game, then we'll guess score.
Xenoblade.
Whenever I see a take like this, it's always something completely bonkers. So, like, the problem is, I'm trying to think of games like Xenoblade.
Yeah.
And I feel like I should be looking somewhere completely elsewhere and thinking, what game would someone who was weird about Xenoblade be so offended by its mere existence that they would just go this weird
Harold Halibut.
Yeah, exactly. I genuinely have no idea, but it'd be something something story-based, something very linear and very under 20 hours.
I honestly have no idea.
I've got no clue.
No
so
clue.
I'm happy to lock in Harold Halibut as a goof if you want to, Rachel.
Yes, we'll lock in. Honestly, I don't even know what that would be.
I'm just trying to think
unless it was like a 1,000 times resist.
So are we allowed to know, are these games from this year, or are we just thinking
they're all from
in
this year? Yeah,
okay, that wipes out my idea. So
just let's go Harold.
Yeah,
Harold?
Let's do it. Let's go weird.
Locked in. That would be amazing.
I'm afraid it's Animal Well, which is even more of a reach.
What?
This review has big guy who's only watched Boss Baby watching his second ever movie. Wow, I'm getting big Boss Baby vibes from this.
Yes.
Energy to it.
God.
Yes.
Donkey needs to read that.
Maybe Donkey wrote it. I don't know. Maybe it's a Donkey meme that Santa's too old to understand.
Yeah.
I think Santa in this universe is canonically in his 40s. Is that what I said last time? Who cares?
Maybe. Oh god, I really need to refresh myself on the lore of this podcast that I'm on every 2 weeks.
Oh, I don't know if you do. I don't think it's worth it. For a point, because you can't get 2 points per question, what do you think they rated Animal Well?
7. It's always 7. No matter what
lock in
happens.
7.
7. I'm afraid it's 0.
Oh wow, it was going to be one of the two, wasn't it?
Hey, they wanted
7.
Xenoblade, they got Animal Well. As far as they're concerned, no points awarded.
Oh my god, I honestly, that genre of review, I hate it, but I love it. It always cracks me up.
No points for us. We
No
got
points
0
so
points.
far.
No points for Animal Well either, though, so I feel like we're in good company.
True. Question 2. Honestly, very overrated for being artsy. I don't know if people did never play old games or why they're excited about it now in this collection, but I can't see anything amazing about these games. Quality over quantity.
I think that's UFO 50.
I was going to say UFO 50 as well.
Let's lock it in.
Yeah, sure.
Correct.
Sweet.
And that was me who wrote that.
Oh, well.
JK, no.
I'm Santa. I'm happy with that. And Liam liked it, so I hate it as well. What do you think they rated UFO 50 out of 10?
Well, if simply enough,
a
Rachel,
5 for 50.
Yeah, 5 sounds good.
Yeah, I would have done.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm afraid
what Rachel would have done.
It's a 4.
Oh, so close.
For God's sake.
You'd rated a 5? Nope, we're not getting to that now. Question 3.
No, a 5 for the 50. Because it's a 50.
I see.
Would I have rated a 5 then? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Lower?
Guilt.
No.
Let's not get into this. Let's not get into this.
Okay.
Question 3. I was enjoying the game up until the 50% completion mark, roughly 25 hours in, but then the game devolves into a series of 4 asterisks. I don't know what that means. Shit, I assume is what they mean by that.
A series of shit.
A series of
really
shit.
how that works.
I mean, I thought it was a series of fuck, which is funnier.
Yes. It's even better.
Wank.
I'll go for that one. That's funnier.
Do we get another point if we get
If we can guess the 4-letter word.
I'm afraid that actually they wrote asterisks. They didn't write the swear word. But I might give you a point for wank because it's funny if you don't make more points later on.
Okay.
So the game devolves into a series of wank, unfun, sometimes headache-inducing mazes. It's just not dreadful. What? Additionally, the design choices, which in the early game were annoying at first, begin to actively punish the player and inconvenience them with no other reason than, ha ha ha, fuck you in the late game. All my goodwill from the first impressions with the game has been drained away as the end game approaches and the level of player inconvenience and wank ramps up. Really frustrating. What do you think that is?
I think that's Lorelei based on the maze.
I was going to say Lorelei as well because of the maze thing, but then I was like, I don't know how long Lorelei is because, I've not played it yet.
There are so many mazes in Lorelei. God damn it. There's like so many. So I think that. And the art comment as well.
Yeah, that's Lorelei.
Locked it in.
Yeah.
Correct. It's Lorelei.
Woo!
And what do we think they rated it out of 10?
Well, they enjoyed it a little bit at the beginning, but then they didn't. So are we thinking above or below a 5?
Oh, I don't know. It's going to be
2 or 3?
I think 4, but then is that because the last one was a 4? So just, I don't know.
I think 2. Shall we meet in the middle for 3?
Yeah, let's go with the 3. Let's say 3.
3.
I'm afraid it was a 4.
Oh!
Yes.
Should have had the courage of my convictions.
Yes. Well, you know what happens if you've got the courage of your convictions, Rebecca? You end up doing a 2.5-minute parody song where most of the
we
lyrics
established
are the
it was
same.
2.5 minutes, Rachel, while you were away.
Yes, it was.
Oh, it was 2.5.
Not, as Rebecca said, it didn't warp time, which really made me laugh. Round 3. It's the Indieventure round.
Ooh.
Oh, no.
We should be good at this, which means we'll be terrible at this.
I know.
Question 1.
Right.
Which of these were not names the 3 of you at one point considered calling the podcast? Both Indieventure and Redacted Pod. I'm counting here.
Okay.
A. Indie Vault. B. Indie Spotlight. C. Immaculate Vibes. D. Indie Juice. And E. Indie Go.
Oh, I think Indie Juice.
I think it might be Indie Juice too. But
yeah, I've got a
this is cringe as fuck.
Good memory. No, I'm fine with it. I'm not ashamed of our process. Indigo would have been alright.
Maybe the colour could have been indigo. Isn't that cute? I honestly
I'm so sure it's Indie Juice. Like the others all ring a bell.
It's definitely Indie Spotlight. We definitely talked about.
We did.
I don't know about Indie Vault, but that sounds okay. So I'm guessing maybe we did. And then that's how we got the Vault idea. I think Indie Juice. You know what? It speaks to us that maybe we did consider.
I've repressed that one if that is a real one, because all of the others, the only one I'm not sure, like you say, Indie Vault, is that a trick because we have the Vault, but like
I think we.
I have to land on
Juice. I agree with you. Let's go for Juice.
Indie Juice?
Yep.
Correct. Indie Juice was never in consideration. Now, what I will say is Indie Vault, I was looking back at our messages earlier today, and when you say we were pushing for Indigo, Liam was pushing for Indigo.
Were you really? Because I thought that sounded like a me thing.
No, yeah, I'll drop character for a second here. I was so into Indigo. And we were like 2 days away from calling it Indie Vault, by the way.
Were we?
We were planning to record that Thursday, and it was Tuesday, and we were still calling it Indie Vault. Yeah.
I am like I wasn't. It's kind of like lovely and weird at the same time that our messages from over a year ago can be used against us in this fashion.
Yeah.
Oh, I nearly went hard on that, but I did not have time today.
Thank you.
Also, I will say, being in the meeting with certain people we used to work with and suggesting immaculate vibes for the podcast name and being met with just an immediate, you will not call it that. I think about that sometimes from time to time. Anyway, it was right though. I will say it was right.
No, fair play. Fair play.
Question 2. In which episode did you debut the Indieventure theme tune? I'm just looking for the number.
Oh.
Theme tune.
Oh, God, because we didn't.
Don't look at this online or I will kill Liam immediately.
Okay, okay.
You can
What?
do it.
Wait, as in like when we first started, we didn't have
we had a different theme tune because we did.
So they're the one that was made
tune and we didn't
for
have
us.
one for a while.
Yes.
And then,
so the one made for us. When did we debut the one that we're currently using? You're currently using. Who am I? I'm struggling to. I'm losing my sense of self.
Right.
Here.
So,
Sandra's going through ego death.
When I had to go back and replace all of the music, it was like 10 episodes.
I was something is saying episode 11 to me.
Yeah,
and I don't quite know why, but that's been in my head, and now you're saying 10ish episodes to replace the music. I'm like, again, there's a dear friend with a head full of C4 or whatever it is, so I'm a little bit stressed about this whole concept. But
I think, it's definitely 9, 10, 11. I don't think it's 9. I think we're in the double digits. So I think, because I had to do a lot of them, but we did do
you
the
did all of them, actually. I don't think Liam did any. I think he did one. That's why he's on the naughty list this year, because he said he would, and then you did them all.
God, I think 11. Yeah, I think you're right, Rebecca. I think maybe at 11.
Oh, we're locking in?
Yeah.
No, wait. Let me think. Let me think for a second. Because, why did I think 10? But I didn't do the first one because we paid for it legally. So I didn't do episode 1.
Yep.
So
you can also clarify, if you want to go validate that, go back and listen to episode 1.
Yeah,
the original theme is still there out of spite.
Yeah, out of spite. So I think, if I said 10, that would make it 11. So yeah, okay. Okay. 11.
I'm afraid it's episode 12.
12!
Oh my God!
I think you did I think you're right. I think the math is mathing. I think you edited 10, but we recorded 11 and decided to leave that one. And then we got the file for episode 12.
Fuck. Yeah, that's on
And that was the listener mailbag episode.
Sorry, Liam. If you die.
Yeah. No, I feel like we kind of messed that up together. Like we talked each other into that. And we were so close. That's the frustrating part.
Oh, watching you both validate each other there was very funny. Okay.
We were so close. We've done so many of these, man.
Question 3.
Okay.
What were our first ever hyperfixations on Redacted podcast? You get 1 point for each.
Oh my God.
If you can remember them.
Oh, I'm sure Rachel did the traitors. I am so sure you said the traitors, Rachel. I'm sure
I think you're right.
I can't remember what I said.
Did you say... Didn't you give
said.
Wasn't yours a condiment, or was that 2 or 3?
That was a little further in. The condiment thing was a bit further in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God.
Because that was it was mushroom ketchup, right? God, I always remember that.
I bought another bottle of that the other day. I still love it.
I've still never seen it.
Okay, I think you're right. I think mine was the traitors.
It's got to be the traitors.
Was Liam's a sad book?
Might have been. I'm like, what would be?
Was yours a book?
I'm totally blanking on mine. I just remember your love for the traitors is what's really stuck with me. So what
let's
was
talk
the
about
real hyperfixation?
The episode was, you mentioned Tiny Life.
I did.
And Lily's Well.
Yes. I mean, those were definitely like the topics because we were doing like the sort of, it was a like pre-Christmas roundup that we then released after Christmas and had to record a different intro for because we recorded it like a month in advance.
And the Traitors was on at that time.
The Traitors, like...
I should stop covering my mouth.
God.
Yeah. So what would you... We should try and narrow it down to a piece of media, like book,
I'm
TV,
trying,
film.
I'm trying, and I can't even get that far.
I will give you a point if you just get the broad vibe.
I think I would have said a video game because that's the sort of person I am.
I think I would have said TV. Okay. I think Traitors, and I think
it's definitely Traitors for you. Okay. I think Liam's might be a book, mine might be a video game, and yours is specifically the Traitors.
Okay, I'm happy with this.
Yeah, I think that's as close as I'm going to get this time.
Yeah.
So
I started tomorrow.
Rachel said the Traitors season 1.
Yes!
Which was new at the time. Rebecca said A Life is Strange dating sim, which is a video game.
Yes.
So I will give you that. And Liam said a cozy TikTok cooking account.
Oh, okay. You did?
Right. Well, look, 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 is not bad. So let Santa just do a little bit of maths here.
Please, Santa.
That Life is Strange dating sim. Still recommend that, by the way.
Please. Right. Final round. I want you to order these cluster of games. It's 3 questions again. I'm going to give you 4 or 5 games for each question, and I want you to order them by the year they came out.
Okay, I'm getting pen and paper.
To latest. I like this. Someone's been working for Thinky Games. She has easy access to pen and paper for a puzzle. So, question 1. I want you to organise these games by the year they came out.
Okay, hang on. I'm still getting my flashcards. Taking this seriously. Taking this extremely seriously.
Are those fresh flashcards?
No, I just have a little...
Oh, in the packet though. Well done.
In the packet.
Lovely.
I also put it in the packet because I'm...
This is why you're Santa's favourite. Nope. That sounded weird when it came out. Didn't like it.
Yeah, just...
Sorry. I told you it was a matter of time before he got cancelled. Right. Question 1.
Okay.
Journey.
Yep.
The Unfinished Swan.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Ether 1. And Guacamele.
Right. I feel like Ether 1 is the oldest.
That's the only one I don't actually know that.
That's the one I play. It's a walking sim, but it's like... it's fine.
Sure. Okay, so Journey is 2012. I feel like Unfinished Swan is like 2013 or 14.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Guacamele is...
newer, I think.
The newer one.
Reckon?
I
God,
can't
my
spell...
handwriting. I used to have such nice handwriting, and then I didn't handwrite anything for about 15 years, and now it's all...
Can I say it?
I just want to... I'm
still nicer than mine, mate.
I think, Ether 1 I think is quite old. Because that's like walking sim, like almost like Riven walking sim.
Oh my gosh, okay.
It's quite, But I played the remake. So, but that was when... God, okay, so I think that one's quite old. So then we're saying Journey, then Unfinished Swan.
Yeah, I think so.
Then Guacamele.
Yeah.
What a random selection of games. Okay.
They are all themed. They're all PlayStation, sort of like known as PlayStation indies.
Oh.
There's method to Santa's madness. So just tell me what your final one was. Your final list.
We think the oldest is Ether 1.
Yep.
Then Journey. Then Unfinished Swan. Then Guacamele.
You were close.
Is it Unfinished Swan switched with Journey?
Journey came out in March 2012.
Yeah.
Unfinished Swan came out in October 2012. Guacamele 2013. Ether 1 2014.
Oh, no Ether 1 is the most recent? Oh,
it is. Yep.
Bullshit, Santa. Ether 1.
She's mad, Santa.
I called bullshit, Santa.
I think
you really
you might
pissed
be
her off now.
thinking
The Liam thing was rough, but this has really got.
This is the angriest she's been.
Hold on.
I think you're thinking of a different game. It was. Yep.
But it looks so old. Yeah, no. This is the game.
Sorry,
I mean,
I was no help there because I don't know Ether 1, so that was.
Oh, it's not.
My ignorance really brought us down there.
was an early PlayStation 4, PlayStation Plus freebie.
Huh.
Oh, fuck.
Check that out.
Yeah, because I played this and thought it was absolutely pants, and I was like, oh, it's like such an old game. But I thought I had played a remaster, but no, it was literally released in 2014.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Huh.
Sorry, Liam, you might die. So I was
One step closer to death.
Because Ether won.
Oh,
Because
wow.
of Ether 1
and
specifically.
the other one, yeah.
Question 2.
Okay.
Please arrange these 4 games.
Jesus.
Starbound,
Okay.
Valheim,
Oh no.
Minecraft, and Terraria.
Valheim, I know for
It's
sure was
recent.
2021. It was
Yeah.
2021 because I covered it when it came out. And
Yeah.
I think that might be the newest one.
I think that's the newest one. So Valheim.
I think Minecraft before Terraria. Starbound, I don't know well enough to venture.
So I think it's Minecraft, Terraria, Starbound, Valheim.
I will go with that because I do not know where the hell to put Starbound, and the other 3 are the order I put them in. So.
I don't know where to put Starbound as well.
It's like on vibes, I would have put it between Minecraft and Terraria, but like that is just a vibe, and it should
But
not
that's the
be
thing,
trusted.
isn't it? It was really close to Terraria in terms of like what you do.
Exactly.
Did Terraria inspire Starbound, or vice versa?
This isn't like me guiding you towards any specific answer, but just because it's relevant for this and the next one, I'm counting the official 1.0 release as the release date because that's what Wikipedia does. Just
Okay.
FYI. If they're in early
So
access.
do you think Starbound should go in the middle of Minecraft and Terraria, Rebecca?
I have no idea. I'm very distracted by has Valheim had its 1.0 yet, which is where my brain's now gone. But either way, Valheim's got to be the newest one by like
Valheim is definitely the newest
quite a
one.
wide margin, so it doesn't really matter.
Sure,
Are we
unless
locking in?
Unless something else got a 1.0 like ridiculous.
That's literally what I'm thinking.
At some point we gotta go for it.
Okay, let's just we're going. Minecraft is the oldest, then Terraria, then Starbound, then Valheim.
Yep.
Oh, it was so close.
Shit! Fuck my life.
Terraria came out in May 2011. Minecraft left early access in November 2011.
Oh god damn.
Starbound was 2016. Valheim was 2021.
Oh, we were so
Fuck.
close.
Santa.
I feel like that's bullshit. You
Look,
probably
okay.
deserve a point for that, I think.
I'm
'cause
gonna
Minecraft...
argue that because I went to uni in 2009, and when I started uni, there was Minecraft merch. So you can't tell me that it leaving early access kind of matters at that point.
Santa, what say you?
Santa doesn't want to argue about cultural releases versus official releases, so you're going to get a point for
right?
that. Well done, you got a point for that.
Thanks,
Yay.
Santa.
Which means now do I do the next ones as early access? No, the next ones are their official 1.0 release dates.
Okay.
Because it won't be as contentious.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's 5 for this one. They're all roguelikes. Enter the Gungeon,
Oh god.
Slay the Spire, Dead Cells, Faster Than Light, and The Binding of Isaac.
I've not played any of these apart from FTL.
No.
Have you, Rebecca?
Really?
Remember what happened last time I was asked to name a
Yeah.
rogue?
Oh yeah, sorry. And Wedding Witch. Is
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, what even
So
was
what
the
was
last
it?
one? I'm already lost.
Enter the Gungeon.
Enter the Gungeon, Slay the
Uh-huh.
Spire, Dead Cells, Faster Than Light, and The Binding of Isaac.
I think Slay the Spire is the most recent. Maybe. Or is that maybe
Oh
Dead
my
Cells?
I'm looking at each of these individually, simultaneously convinced they're the newest and the oldest on the list. Like,
I think
I'm so bad
FTL
with
was
roguelikes.
quite a while ago.
Okay. I just want to point out, Santa has really set me up for failure on this one, and he knows it. He knows it.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, I have no idea. This is a hard one. These are all kind of
okay.
just okay.
Because, like, my question is, as someone who doesn't really play this genre very much, ones that feel newer to me could actually be the oldest ones, because it could be things that I've become aware of only much further down the line. Right. So I'm just like...
Binding of Isaac 1.0, I feel like that might be maybe one of the most recent one. Because that wasn't done for ages, right? Okay. FTL.
Yeah.
Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah, I'd put those two first, I think.
Binding.
And then...
No. Dead Cells. Slay the Spire. No, maybe the other way around, actually. Slay the Spire. Dead Cells. And then we got to fit Isaac in somewhere. 1.0.
Okay. I am happy to go with FTL and Enter the Gungeon as the first two.
Yeah,
I think
me too.
That works with my feelings. How about Dead Cells, Binding of Isaac, Slay the Spire? Just like we gotta make a choice.
Dead Cells, Slay the Spire.
Slay the Spire feels newest to me because I can kind of remember a friend recommending it to me, whereas all the others feel like they were very much established.
Yeah.
Before I got back into video games in a big way, but like this is meaningless. I'm just guessing.
Okay.
Shall we lock in then?
Yeah.
What's your list?
We're locking in.
So we've gone for FTL as the oldest.
Yes.
Followed by Enter the Gungeon, then Dead Cells, then Binding of Isaac, and then Slay the Spire.
Every single time you've just got one wrong.
No, and it was
but
so
every single time you've had the order right at some point.
Oh my God.
What's interesting about Isaac is I think it came out before early access as a concept. So Binding of Isaac released in 2011. That's just how it's defined.
Right.
Then it's Faster the Light in 2012.
Yeah.
Enter the Gungeon in 2016.
Yeah.
Dead Cells left early access in 2018. And Slay the Spire, correct, came out in 2019.
Oh my goodness, we were so close just on vibes alone.
Okay.
Right. Santa's going to do a little bit of maths.
A little bit of deadly maths.
Your boy survives. So we've got...
Would Liam have known that, Santa, if Liam hadn't looked that up? Do you think Liam would have known the order of those 5?
Yes.
Oh.
I think so. I think...
We should have from here on out a phone a friend option. To phone.
Yeah.
Oh, to phone Liam from the pit.
Yeah.
I was happy down there. It's a pit. He likes that kind of thing.
One of these days, I'm going to put together a quiz that's all about like Otome visual novel release dates, and Santa's going to have to learn to deal with that.
Oh, Santa's going to do it. It's not going to be Liam. It's going to be Santa,
Bring Santa
that you're going
back.
to put
I
on
don't care
trial.
if it's July.
Oh, excellent. Well,
Rachel can have her Santa head mug that she refuses to drink out of in December.
Yes.
Now, I need to make sure I get this right because last time we did a quiz, I think I miscalculated and I think maybe Rebecca won and not Rachel, who I said did. So that's for
I thought
another
Rebecca
time.
won last time.
Ooh.
Or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember. I think I just
I'm
kept
so
missing
incensed
points.
and outraged that I can't even remember the incident we're referring to.
Okay, so it's out of 17 and
Okay.
you got 2, 5, 7. No, that's not right. You got 5, 8, 10. Half of 17. Is someone better at maths than me?
8.5.
Half of 17 would be 8.5, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Liam lives. Well done.
Yay!
Your co-host survives, and yet another laboured comedic section is over. As is tradition on the podcast, I did barely a voice, let's be fair. A song that I regretted immediately that I'm dreading listening back to.
Oh my God. Yes.
And now, before I bring Liam back upstairs so you can finish off this podcast, I will leave you with the end of the quiz song. I'm kidding. I don't have an end of the quiz song. Although it would have been quite funny if I'd re-sang the intro song again in its entirety
that would
before
be
the
very
end of the
funny.
podcast.
It would have been... I'm surprised that you didn't have 2 slight variants based on whether Liam lived or died ready to go. And yet we had to wait until 2 minutes into the 2 minutes 30 to actually hear the slight variation. Like, you know, the deep cut.
Yeah.
Only
Rebecca,
the real ones will even notice.
That's implying that I didn't write this quiz half an hour today during work hours. Right. Well, I'll go fish Liam out the hole. Off I go. Enjoy some audio special effects that Liam downloaded from YouTube. Bye. See you next Christmas.
Santa.
Maybe, probably not. This joke has
Bye,
ran into the
Santa.
ground.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry
Hello.
Hi,
I'm back.
Liam.
Man,
I
I hope Santa didn't do anything incredibly cringe that can be attributed to me instead of him.
No.
Thanks for saving my life, I guess.
Yeah, no worries, girl.
I get like peak weirds around Halloween, and
Yeah.
then Liam leaves and Santa turns up around Christmas. Rachel, you basically have to find a way to make Easter something that you're like way too into.
What about the second coming of Christ? Hello, is that Easter?
That's the energy you get.
That is
Shall I
very
get-
good. I like that a lot, yeah.
There you go.
Right, basically, you've got
Done.
2 choices. I feel like you've either got Easter or New Year's Eve, and New Year's Eve you're going to have to
Easter.
be quick, so I recommend making it Easter.
Easter. Absolutely.
I like Easter. Can we
Yeah.
squeeze the word cunt into resurrection to make it like Oh, it's like serving. No, I'm done.
Yes.
I clearly had no creative vision when I started doing this. I don't know why I'm trying afterwards. Go.
Well, I look forward to seeing what Rachel does for Easter.
Me too.
Well, I mean, isn't Eurovision a time of year?
I think
that's
Eurovision.
sort of around,
that's right. That is your time. Eurovision is Rachel's
that's actually
time.
very true.
Yeah.
May.
That is a very good
So
point.
May.
Right. Shall we move on to
Good for us.
hyperfixations?
Yay!
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Hyperfixations is the section of the podcast where we talk about things that are occupying our mind. Why am I introducing this? Like everyone knew to turn off for section 2.
We never
introduced
hyperfixations. We just let it speak for itself. Did we?
Should we?
Did we
introduce
ever?
it?
Should we?
Yeah.
And
Did we ever?
Did we ever back right at the very
I
start?
mean, we definitely always do. Time for some hyperfixations, and the other two go, yay! We always do that.
Yeah, true. I guess that is a form of introduction, even if it's devoid of context of what the section is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself, right?
That is very, very
Absolutely.
You
true.
can work it out. I love giving people endless homework just to get to the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
Is that what our podcast is? Is our podcast
think
endless
so.
homework?
Yeah.
About the real heads.
Add to wish list / endless homework.
Oh, that was another one we nearly went with.
Yeah, we did,
Yep.
yeah.
Add to wish list.
Oh, wish
God, we
listed.
really lucked out with Indieventure.
Wish listed is now actually a thing at work. So I
saw.
promise that I did not say that loud enough for anyone to steal it.
When they launched that, the group of websites, I was very much like, I see you. I see you.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I don't feel so bad about calling my console in Discovery the other week. That's finished now.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
the
yeah,
results are in.
we should probably see how thoroughly Rachel
You
won
should
as part of
So-
crown me.
The final
Yeah.
results are. I'm not
Hold on.
going to include Twitter because, like,
Did anyone?
nobody. Well, like 2 people
Oh,
did. So let's just
bless
pretend that
them.
didn't happen because it was quite embarrassing.
Aw.
So, in third place, a respectable third place with 6 votes, that's 70% of the votes, we have the Wedding Witch Machine itself,
Yes.
the Empathy Machine.
It will find
Well
you.
done.
It will find you.
find you.
Yeah, woo, well done. In number 2, with 13 votes, 36%, it's Indiscovery. It's me. Yep. I survived just to be let down immediately. Thanks, life. I love being alive. And number 1, obviously, because of course it is, we knew this even when we were recording the episode,
Right.
Megawatts Voyager with 17 votes at 47%. Well done, Rachel. You won the first ever
Thank
I drew you a
Indieventure
crown.
Draft episode.
Thank you.
There's a crown at the top of my notes.
Oh, thank you.
That's so nice.
So,
And I wrote you a song. No.
oh my God, I would absolutely love that.
You'd love if I wrote you a
Yes,
song.
I would.
Even now. Have you, sorry, did you black out and forget what just happened?
More so now. Always.
Yeah. honestly, it was
Absolutely.
very
As
fun.
you were singing, I was actually thinking whether we should have that as our next Eurovision entry.
Yeah.
We all-
Actually. Oh, you know what? This is
Oh my
like.
God.
Also, it's definitely my
Kinda
new
love
vocal
that,
stim.
actually.
Like that song.
You want to know what's kind of embarrassing about this, honestly, is that recently I've been covering Infinity Nikki for work, and I've started
Oh.
as entertainment for myself while I do that, because there's so much like very. It's not out until next week, but there's so much very poppy
hello.
music in it. I've started rewriting "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey, but with lyrics about Infinity Nikki, because I
Oh, I
don't know
love
why, but my
that.
brain told me to do it. So maybe we should have a video game.
Oh, we
song
should have a video.
contest.
Yes, we
Yes.
should have a video game song contest, and the listeners vote on their favorite song.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, we will be massively hamstrung by the fact that you don't want me to sing on here. You don't want me to sing.
I mean, I've heard
Hey,
you witch cackle.
Rebecca, I can't sing for shit.
Yeah, I mean, the
Good
witch cackle is.
cackling.
Iconic.
And also, I would just say that our lovely listeners did another poll a few weeks ago about who had
They
the best
did.
witch cackle, and I did win that one, which I felt very
Yes,
you
validated by
did.
creating a situation where I set myself up to win, not asking for a poll, but winning one anyway. It felt very good. Thank you guys.
It is.
Maybe the listeners should
it is your crown.
should rate us each episode on.
It's a witch hat.
Oh God, no, that sounds.
Oh, it's a witch
I love it.
hat.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Oh, look at you drawing hats.
Drawing hats for each other. Yes, that actually ties in really well to Infinity Nikki, Rachel, because I know that you were keen to check that out.
I'm so keen.
When's the embargo for that? When can you talk about it? Like,
I don't know. I mean, this episode will be out after it, I think.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it will. Yeah. Cool. I mean, it's released on the 5th.
Good or bad? What's it like?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's not super my thing. I mean, it's kind of got the... People are saying it's like Genshin, but dress up, which is pretty accurate. But
Dress up.
I'm like,
Sounds like it's going to make $1 billion.
Dress up.
I love that it's going to be huge. It's like it can afford to come out on the 5th of December and know it will be huge into next year. It's kind of like, I love that it just is so committed to its concept. It's just like, it is literally every fantasy ever, but you replace like every fantasy scenario with like fashion. And so it's like, we instead of like battles, we're going to have like a catwalk off. And the Stylist Guild is the one that's going to like, everyone needs to be saved by the Stylist Guild rather than like the Adventurers Guild or whatever. And it's just like completely dead serious, but also instead of like, you are still fighting enemies, but instead of like armor, you're just putting on cute dresses. And
that's my God.
Incredible.
Styling hair is one of the most powerful and like magical things you can do in this universe. I'm like, you know what? It's not super my thing, but I like that they're so committed.
When Final Fantasy X2 came out, everyone said, Square Enix, what you're doing? No one's going to want to play a game where you dress up to get more stat boosts. And look where we are now. X2 walked so Infinity Nikki could strut. Let's just put Infinity Nikki review in the description now. And
yeah, there we go.
There we go. We've done it. Rachel, because you won the draft, would you like to go first with your hyperfixation?
No, because I don't think I have one.
Cool. That might be a common theme for this section.
Are you honest? Because like I've been my God, I've just been really busy lately and like with work and stuff. And so honestly, I was just going to be like, I don't have one. I'm so sorry, but is it the same for you?
I mean, I have one, but I'll be talking about it next week in more detail. So
okay.
It's one of those situations. Yeah, you know what it is because I've been messaging you in all caps for the last week. Rebecca, why don't you take us away
everybody clear some space because I'm about to talk about the Wicked movie for a long time.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
I should have seen this coming.
Let's get into it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. No, I got to go see it on Sunday. And like for context, Wicked, over the span of my like sort of teenagerhood and adult life, probably one of my favorite things ever. I started off reading the books when I was probably 16, 17. I loved it so much I went to see the musical in London for my 18th birthday, which was a pretty big deal for me at the time. Like I didn't go to London very often when I was young, being kind of a rural Midlands girl. And yeah, so this movie has really, as I think we said between us a couple of weeks ago, it's kind of capped off the year of Rebecca in a wild way.
God.
But like it's very validating to see how well it's doing because I always knew I was going to love it, right? I was like, I was going to love it no matter what happens. But it's getting really good responses and that's nice to see. So yeah, for saying that it's like a 3-hour nearly movie, and the wild thing is that obviously they split it into 2 parts. That's pretty well known by now. So it ends, it's just act 1
I
of
did
the
not
film.
know that.
It's act 1 of the musical, and then act 2 is going to be part 2 that comes out basically a year from now.
So when you say in our chat that Defying Gravity was the last song, I was just like, what the fuck? Okay, that's Rogue, but that makes sense now.
Yeah, no, they end on Defying Gravity because it's the end of Act 1.
Right, okay.
But the fact that like the first film is longer than the original stage play in its entirety.
Wow.
But I mean like, I was loving it the whole time. Do I think it's absolutely perfect? No. But do I think that it did so many things that I wanted it to do and make me really happy? Yeah, it did. I think the performances were great. I think that it looked. I think that the Emerald City parts looked the best. I have some thoughts about how I would have done it differently. Obviously, as someone who's thought a lot over the last 2 decades about how exactly they would do a film version of Wicked, but it's very pretty and it's well acted. All of the songs are great. One of the thoughts I have is because of the way it was marketed, there were a lot of kids in the screening that we were in. It's like a U-rated film in the UK. It was marketed, there's like a Roblox experience about it. There's a load of like Duplo and kids stuff coming out with it. And I'm just like, the thing is, right, and I love this show so much, but I'm like, Act 1 and Act 2, tonally very different. If you've brought your 3-year-old to see the cute film with Popular in it, and then in a year you've got to sell your 4-year-old on all the really dark shit that happens in Act 2.
Good point.
I'm like, this is going to be really interesting to see how they handle the marketing for part 2. Also, I think I said it in our chat already, but it bears repeating. There was so much in that screening where I was like, this is a 3-hour film for 40-year-old theatre nerds that you've sold to families with toddlers, and it is absolutely wild.
Oh my
The
God.
intersection of demographics in here is really quite something to see. But I had a really good time. I would watch it again in a heartbeat, even though it is a whole evening gone.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah. No.
I'm so happy I liked it.
Yeah, and I've got the last book of the new trilogy. I recently acquired it. So I think I'm going to start reading that probably this weekend to sort of like keep the hype going. It's called The Witch of Maricourt.
Ooh.
And yeah, it's a sequel trilogy to the original Wicked. What's 4 books?
Quadrilogy.
Yeah. So he did 4 books.
Quad something.
Yeah. He did the first 4 books and then like took a break, and now he's done another like a follow-up trilogy that I've been really enjoying. So yeah, I'm all there. It's like going to Mick, like, we should go to see it in London. He's like, it's going to be the most expensive thing in the world for the next 2 years. Like, do you want to maybe leave that off? And I'm like, maybe, I guess.
I'll go to London with you and watch it. I'd go with you.
Yeah, let's go see
I've never
Wicked.
seen this. I've never seen the stage show.
Okay,
I'd love
we're
to see
going.
it. I'd absolutely
It's a
do that.
really good stage show. I think there were things.
I've only seen it once.
There were things that definitely. Yeah, me too. I've only seen it.
Wicked. London.
But
2025.
there are things that definitely I think the stage version still does better, but surprisingly I think there were a few bits that the film did that I was like, actually, I could call that better than the stage version. Can't believe I'm saying that, because I still think book over stage and stage over film overall for me.
Okay, it's in Manchester from December to January.
Ooh.
Is it? What next year in
December
2024
to January 2025. It's actually in Cardiff this month, so that's interesting.
It comes up to Sunderland quite a lot.
We should definitely all go see it, because
so it moves around the country.
That would be so funny.
Yeah, it'll.
I love that.
We'll get like a ticket like somewhere that's in between the 3 of
yes.
us, and we'll just spend like the weekend.
That would be really
so
awesome.
fun.
Yeah, I knew they were touring, but I was like, I didn't really have an eye on where they were touring. But yeah, anyway, I'm just done I'm this close to playing Roblox voluntarily, you guys. It's not even funny.
Girl.
No, that's
dangerous.
Don't do that. Trust me.
No, I mean I haven't, because I've got some self-respect left, but it's like it's teetering.
Oh.
Well, as someone who doesn't and has played Roblox for a video that never even got released, don't do it. Please don't do it.
I actually do have a hyperfixation that I've just remembered, but it's like the beginning of one.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have been really into my kind of female-led queer horror books recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just finished. I'm looking at my list now. I've just finished a book called Salt Slow by Julia Armfield, who wrote Our Wives Beneath the Sea, Rebecca, which I know you've read.
Yes, I remember you recommended
this was
one.
her.
Yes.
So I finished it when I went to Manchester. This is her collection of short horror stories, and they are really, really good. One in particular that I really liked is a woman who is, I guess, a social media manager for a female-led band who are on tour. And it's just this idea that like all these like young women are going to see the band perform, and they're like, something's happening where I guess they're like the women and girls are getting like so excited they like go out, and like they're like mobs of them everywhere. It's like the opposite of like, you know how like guys at Oasis act, that's like really gross, but it's like women led instead, and it's just like women on the streets in groups of like of rabbles, like riots and stuff. I just think that is so, and it's like through the power
really
of like this like the feminine energy, raw energy of this like of this band, and it's like really fucking good. And there's another one where a woman is like, I think it's a young woman is like shedding her skin, and I loved that one. And so because of this, I've got 2 books that I want to read. One is another collection of horror stories called She's Always Hungry by Eliza Clark, which looks really fucking good. And I read the first story of that, and I thought that was really good. and then Night Bitch as well, which is the one about the woman who turns into a werewolf. I think
that sounds amazing.
The covers look.
Really
I can't see, but like if you recognize the cover, you might have seen that one. I've seen it in Waterstones and stuff. She's got fangs. Sorry for the listeners.
Yeah.
And then the other one looks like this, which is really cool. Oh no, it's in the bit. Never mind. Anyway, so I'm really into my like, I don't know, women-centered horror. Oh, and I also read a comic by E.M. Carroll. I read their book recently, which was a horror book, and it was really good. So yeah, basically I'm really into my like queer horror stories that may involve women murdering other people or just being absolutely the worst.
Taking recommendations
so
here.
yeah, that's kind of my fixation, that it's like I'm in the midst and I'm on the way.
I may have some counter recommendations for you at some point, Rachel, if that's
I was going to say, sure you do.
Fantastic. So that one's mine. So yeah.
That's brill. You've reminded me of, actually, it's not a hyperfixation, I guess, in the traditional sense, but I read a really good book when I was on holiday that I will quickly talk about. So I read a book, it's called Imagine a City, A Pilot's Journey Across the Urban World by Mark Van Honacker. I don't know how you say his last name.
Whoa. What a title.
So I read one of his books a few years ago. It was actually when we went to Seattle, Rachel. I was reading it. It was called, what was it called? Skyfaring.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which was, I bought this book because at the time I was quite nervous about flying, and I bought it thinking, maybe this will help me. Like a book by a pilot will help normalize the act of flying. And it did that because it is a book about the joy and the beauty of flying. But Mark he's a pilot for British Airways. And he had this just absolutely beautiful dream-like, erudite way of talking about flight and about, not just about the act of flying and about like weather patterns and, you know, what it's like to soar across the world, but also about what it's like to go places, what it's like to be there with people that you'll never meet again. You know, the cabin crew and the pilots rarely know each other in a company as big as British Airways. And it was an absolutely sensational book. I absolutely adored it. And it really made me rethink about the act of flying and made it almost like a romantic thing for me now, which really has helped in terms of fear. So I realized he had a second book called Imagine a City. And what is great about this book is that it's about the cities that he goes to rather than flying. So he will talk about what they're like from the air, but mainly it's about what the cities are. And he talks about the history of them. And he goes into he segments the book into categories. So like cities of poets, and he'll talk about Delhi and all the poets from Delhi, and then he'll talk about like City of Circles, and he'll talk about the underground in London and the tube system in Tokyo. But what's really nice about this book is that he says a lot more about himself. So he didn't really say much about himself and his life in the first book, but in this one he makes a really big effort to talk about what he was like as a young kid and what got him into flying and what got him into this, you know, the sort of idea that he wanted to travel the world and see places. And he immediately off the bat says, I was a young man who was gay and realized I was gay in this very small town called Pittsfield in the US. And it just keeps going back to that and how that was difficult. And he had a speech impediment. And he always brings it back. No matter the chapter, he always talks about Pittsfield. He talks about home and what was beautiful about home and about his parents and his family and his husband and his brother. And it's just it's a really lovely book. Like, weirdly, you wouldn't think it, but by the end I was like in tears by this one anecdote he has about meeting someone from his past when he's in his 50s. And he's a really beautiful writer. I think you've got to have a love of like history and to really like, you want to know the bones of a place. And if you've got an interest in that, you know, it's a bit dad coded in that sense. But it's a beautiful book, and I would very much recommend it.
His first book was a hyperfixation of yours. I remember you talking about it. Oh, maybe not. Maybe. I feel like I was like, I know this
because
book.
We went.
Maybe you just told me about it.
I mean, there's nothing
outside
to do
of
but
the content for the podcast.
Surely we made content about that. I imagine I was probably talking to you about it, sleep deprived in a terrible burger place in the middle of Seattle.
Yeah, because I was like, I
just trying to make conversation after a long day.
Yeah, I was like, I've definitely heard this bit before. From you. I thought it was on the podcast.
I don't think that was on the podcast. I think you might have mentioned it before. between the three of us, but I don't think one of those weird combos we have not recording it.
Absolutely.
Why would we ever talk to each other if we can't make content?
Yeah,
Doesn't make sense to
I
me.
really don't understand.
If you reel it all the way back, you'll remember that the reason we make a podcast together is so we have a built-in excuse to have really long chats every couple of weeks.
Always.
Absolutely. And that's why this podcast is as long as part 1 of the Wicked movie. It's not. We're not there yet.
Not quite.
But that does bring us to the end of part 1 of our duology of podcasts.
Nicely done.
Join us next time. We will be talking about our Game of the Year. We'll be discussing our favourite indies of 2024. And I nearly said 2023 there. It says a lot about my state of mind right now.
Don't even.
And don't worry, I won't be singing any songs in that one. It'll be the more sensible one we do, because we normally get a lot of organic listeners from it. So we're going to be on our best behaviour. We will not be on our best behaviour.
No,
but please tune in.
We might be. It's just not going to be.
Well, yeah,
Where's
true.
the bar? Where's the bar?
Well, I guess we'll find out.
That's true.
To be fair, if you are keen on the podcast and you want to find out more, you can find us on Blue Sky. We have an account on Blue Sky now because we haven't left the old website, but we now have more followers on Blue Sky than the Hell site, so that's where we'll probably primarily be posting. We have the Discord. We have over 100 people in the Discord now. They have conversations in there all the time that are way too intelligent for me to understand, but everyone seems to be having a nice time, so I wish them all the best. I have learned a lot, and that's how I learned about the Jonathan Blow braid atom bomb theory, which really made me laugh.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So yeah, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back very soon. Also, we will be taking a break over Christmas. Well, not over Christmas, but in January. We won't be back until probably towards the back end of January, but we'll talk more about that at the end of next episode, but just as an FYI. So it's goodbye from me. It's goodbye from Rachel.
Bye.
And it's goodbye from Rebecca.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.
Indieventure is a video games podcast created, produced, hosted, and edited by Rachel Watts, Rebecca Jones, and me, Liam Richardson. For more information, including a list of every game we mentioned in this episode, make sure to check out our website, indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can get in touch by sending your questions, comments, and feedback to contact@indieventurepodcast.co.uk. You can support the show by rating us 5 stars and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast provider of choice. Some of the games we talk about on the show may have been provided to us for free for review consideration. Our intro music and stings were composed for us by Ollie Newbury. Check the episode description to hear more of his excellent tunes. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks for another episode of Indieventure. Bye for now.